Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Wednesday night. He says, moving the microphone a bit closer. Hobby Hangout. How is everybody? I've been enjoying reading the comments there, folks. I'm not even going to tell you what I do for the last 5 or 10 minutes because you're having far too many fun guesses for me to tell you the truth. It's a lot less exciting than you'd imagine. How is everybody? I hope you're all very well. Let me just move a few things around on my screen so I know how everything's doing. How is everybody? How's your Monday and your Tuesday been? Or your Tuesday and your Wednesday even? Can't even keep up with my days at the minute. This is terrible, isn't it? This is going to make a bit of a noise, but I'm just going to... that's it. Just going to move the microphone a bit. There we go. So, let's have a look and see who we've got in the chat. We had Connor in nice and early. He said, I'm going to be one of those people and say, first. That was a 25 by 6. Nice to see you, Connor. I don't know if you're still around, mate, but nice to see you in early. Mark Berracloth was in nice and early as well, seeing Elsie is second then. Marcus wasn't far behind. Hello, Marcus. How are you doing? Ortega, hello in the rerun, mate, in the catch-up. Peter Koeman is assembling Zulus. Thousands of them. Connor said he's got his 40k, is it Judica or Judicea? I never know how to pronounce that. He's got that one there, I think it's Judicea. Tiberius Wallace says, smash that like button, bitches. Lord Maiden, hello to you, mate. How's work going? What's it like being out in the real world with people again? You have to tell me what it's like. I haven't experienced it yet. He's got his Malifaux crew ready for washing and basing. Nice one. Good evening, Mr. Christian Rees. How are you doing, sir? Hope you're well. Scott Latham, this is Evening Hobbyists. Good evening to you, Scott. Marcus is working on some Crypt Hunters, or Crypt Haunters, I should say. Andrew said he's washing nipples and rings for bottles, as you do. Marcus said he's put his order in for the Warhammer Underworld Crimson Coat with his local game store yesterday. I'll be honest, it looks really nice. We were briefly chatting about it this morning in the Patreon chat in the Discord. A bit of a plug there for Patreon. If you're not already a member, we do have a private Discord chat where we rabbit away pretty much 24 hours a day. And we were chatting about this morning. It's probably the one thing from this week's releases that I probably would potentially think about getting back. Do you know what it is? It's really nice. I can't be honest with the hassle of trying to be on there at 10 o'clock to try and blag one. And I'll be honest, I've got Cursed City coming this weekend. I've got my Malifaux stuff. I've got my Lost World Exodus stuff. I've got some Drowned Earth stuff. I have plenty of stuff to be getting on with. I don't need to be buying more stuff. That's just gonna go in the, as I would affectionately call it, the YI pile. As in, YI. I'll get to it later. Andrew says, "What do you reckon Andy does while he's waiting for the countdown?" I'm going to tell you all the things people thought I was doing. He said, Andrew said, is he just sitting there staring at the countdown clock? Tiberius saying he puts a bit of powder on his heat. As you can see from the shine, mate, it wasn't a bit of powder, but I did shave my head this morning, to be fair. Morgan said he probably raps. You do not want to hear my singing voice, mate. Blizzard saying, all ours hooligans. Tiberius said, reckon he's the type that will put on a fresh shirt or even have had a shower. I always brush my teeth before a live stream. And I always put on a fresh shirt. So it's kind of like just part of the ritual, really, to be fair. The last thing I need is to have had a kind of like a heavy tea and, and to have had bits of food in my teeth or something like that. I am drinking coffee, though. So, yeah, I should have brushed my teeth after I had the coffee. Andrew Firebanks says, maybe he dances. No. Peter says, I bet he stretches the last 5 minutes. Pusey says, good evening, hobby hooligans. Andrew saying, vocal exercises. No, I'm just going to keep you... I'm not going to tell you what I do, but I'm going to keep you guessing. It's interesting to read them. Yoakum said, good evening, folks. He's painting a judge and a cadet from Mega City 1 tonight. Nice choices. Plus some bases for Cursed City. I'm kind of hanging on to start my Cursed City stuff. I've got a Kickstarter that I backed recently for some resin STL files for loads of different types of bases. And there's some really nice ones that I'm kind of thinking I might just wait and use once it's due in the next week or two. Once that delivers to me the files, I'll print off some bases. So I think I'm tempted to just kind of glue everything together and just fit them into the bases that come from GW to get my first game in and have the game sort of unpainted and play through the game. And then once I can do my bases, I think I'll make a start on the set, I think. Marcus is saying, Dust the Robot. No. Tyrese says, gives himself a Vincent Vega pep talk in the lovely mirror. Just, come on. No. Where else are we at? Oh, that jumped ahead massively there. How the hell does that happen? Where are we up to? Ed Handley, good evening all. Good evening, Ed. Hello, Colin Wakeland as well. How are you doing, mate? Phil Campbell, good evening to you too. Tybee says he has a shit, so he doesn't need to later. I do a last-minute toilet dash, mate, because I have to sit here for 2 hours or 3 hours. So, yeah, needing to go to the toilet 10 minutes in is not a good look. Yoakum says he's practicing his dancing skills. Good morning, VJ. How are you, mate? Good evening, Stu McMurtry as well. Andrew said it's Wednesday, Thursday. It is Wednesday, Thursday, mate. I'll tell you what I've been doing later on, but I've had a busy week, and I don't know whether I'm looking at it on camera, but I feel exhausted. I've literally been like sort of up at the crack of dawn, 7 o'clock. It's crack of dawn for me, to be fair. Up at 7 o'clock, and I have been grafting right the way through. Like Monday, Bank Holiday Monday, I was grafting all day, did the live stream. Got up on Tuesday, went to B&Q like first thing in the morning, 7 o'clock for it up, and bought more wood to crack on. And yesterday I was working till late. I was like I was painting the walls and painting the ceiling at like, what was it, 7, 8 o'clock last night. Up again early this morning. As you can see behind me, the big table. Normally there's a big table here. The big table has gone. It's been moved. So that's part of the work that's going on at the moment. I had a 3D printer arrive today, which I'd purchased. So I had to build that today as well, because it came in bits. It didn't come assembled. I'll come on and have a chat about that later on as well. And then obviously come straight on to do the live stream, as well as try to look after the little one, and generally just kind of throw food down my neck when I get 5 minutes. So yes, it's been a busy few days. Margot says, "Hey, beautiful lot." He's painting an oak and silver tower mate tonight. Nice one, mate. Margot says, "By the way, I loved the stream last Monday, and for your information, I'm happy to sell my copy of Curse City." It's definitely kind of they're shaping up to be some of my most disliked videos, but I knew that before I started, so it's not it wasn't kind of unexpected. But yeah, I'm still surprised. A lot of the comments, you can tell people haven't watched the video. They've literally just read the title and clicked on it and ranted and stuff like that. But yeah, everybody's entitled to their opinions. That's the beauty of it. Derek Hodge says, "Evening all." He's painting some 1988 Citadel Imperial Army pre-Imperial Guard for his Stargrave crew. A nice one. Lord Maiden says, "It's like the perfect world considering the pandemic. Then I go out in public." Margot says, "Quick, use a video editing tool and sharpen that whiteboard." Do you know what it is, mate? I'm trying to think what's on there at the minute. I'm a bit lax. There's a lot of kind of ideas for videos. Some of them I've already done and they're crossing off. Some of it is lists of games. Actually, I don't think you'll be able to see it because of the important stuff is on the top board where all the stuff covers it over. So yes. Some games that I plan to put on the channel this year as well. Bobby Clark says, "He all had a dull day of base coat and infantry." But that's nice, mate. VJ says, "Okay, 5:30 a.m. Bucking it down overnight, so I think I'm going to put my run off until after today's paint session." I tell you what, mate. It was yesterday, I think it was. The sun was like shining. It was cold, but the sun was shining, and then it started to snow at the same time. So it was like snowing in the sunshine. I don't think I've experienced that in the UK. Colin Wakeland says, "Andy, do you have a pile of shame?" I have so much stuff that I've accumulated over time, over the years. Things that people have like just sent out to me unsolicited, and I've just never got round to things like just that. I've just like, it's not my kind of thing. I don't believe in like selling it, like when stuff comes into the channel and stuff. Because I think that's a bit disingenuous, I think. So the stuff I've obviously been painting, the stuff I'm interested in, the stuff I've been contacted about generally. But then I've also got like sort of 10 years worth of stuff before I was even doing YouTube stuff. So yes, I do have serious piles of shame. I would say piles of opportunity, but a lot of it's shame, I'll be honest. Andrew Fairbanks says, "Yeah, we need a pile of opportunity vid." If I'm perfectly honest, I'm too embarrassed. It looks a little bit like I'm kind of flexing, as the kids would say, showing how much stuff I've bought over the years that I've done absolutely nothing with. I'm a lot better these days. The last couple of years, I've been much more in control of it. But years ago, I had a good job. I had plenty of spare cash. Like, I wasn't hurting anybody buying plastic toys. It wasn't like I wasn't paying the bills or anything like that. And I just bought and bought, and I bought stuff on a whim and got caught up in FOMO and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's not a pretty pile. Where was this one? VG says, time for a cuppa before I pull out the paint. It's a nice one. Derek Hodge says, no such thing as a pile of shame, just piles of opportunity. I've got years and years of opportunity there then, mate. Andy Smith says, coffee, you're drinking coffee. I'm exhausted, mate. I need some coffee just as a little bit of a pick-me-up, really. I'm flagging today. Marcus says, I plan on reading the rule book before I do anything else with Curse City. Yeah, I've intentionally avoided, like, Ash Barker's videos this week. I don't want to any of it spoiled. I want to kind of, like, these days there's so much that you kind of, spoil's probably the right word, but like kind of like that you get to know or you get to see. Like, you see the unboxings and the shine's taken off, kind of unboxing it yourself, and you see so many gameplay videos and live playthroughs and things where actually like flipping them cards over and seeing what comes out is almost like, oh, I saw that in a video type thing. This is one game that I'm not really planning on doing any content with it. It's something that like is for me. I'll probably talk about it if people are interested in stuff. But I don't think I'm going to do any painting videos. I'm not even really going to kind of spend too long painting it. I'm going to just sort of get some colours on them. I'm thinking of just kind of Zenithal kind of highlighting them and maybe picking out the odd bits and pieces. And if people, I'll obviously show the pictures off on like Facebook or in the Patreon group and stuff like that, maybe Instagram. If people are interested, I might kind of sort of show them off as a group or whatever. But this is kind of like a little hobby for me, this one. I can play it solo, so I'm not kind of waiting for it to play with other people. So this is for me. This is a little treat for me, really. Lord Maiden says, honestly though, it's okay. People still either master or observe and 2 meter rule. Yeah, it must feel a little bit weird being around that many people, I suppose. Andy Smith says, how we're hobby hooligans. Margot says, just dry brush the ceiling, it's quicker. I tell you what, mate, this is how wonderful my wife is. While I'm sitting here talking to you, like, my wife is in what will be the studio. I'll explain what I'm doing in a second, but that's basically what's going to be the kind of like the gaming studio. And she's doing more of the decorating, so she's painting, like doing some more painting for me tonight. So yes, it's a proper team effort. What I'm basically doing is this room here where I've done all my videos from. This is all the stuff I've done. Is still going to be kind of where I'll live stream from. So Monday nights will be in here. Wednesday nights for painting will be in here. But it was getting a bit cramped. I had a big table behind me, a big 6x4 table, which was great storage and things. So what I've done is I've converted, with a hell of a lot of building work that I've done all myself, I've converted my double garage. I've kind of split the back bit off where we've got like a washing machine and a tumble dryer and our sort of heating boiler and stuff. And I've put some racking in there for some storage. I've divided that off, and I've now got basically the size of like a double garage, just slightly shorter. And I'm kind of building like a fake set, if you like, in one half of the garage. And the big table's going to be in there, and I'm going to have obviously cameras dotted around and stuff like that for filming. And then the other side of it is to give me some space to kind of get the camera at a decent distance away and stuff, and have some sort of racking and things up to put like games and armies and terrain and things on. So what it means is, one, as soon as I can get people to my house, I have a lovely big area where we can kind of play games either on camera or just for the fun of it if folks don't really want to play on camera. It's not like kind of it's not getting in the way. It's not like it's in here and I've got to keep sort of like breaking it down when it's not like I've got to keep breaking it down if I'm in the middle of a game kind of thing or something like that, or I'm setting something up and then I've got to take it all down while I'm doing live streams on a Monday and things, or I've got to break things down because I need to paint, and it just means I can actually like sort of take the next step for the channel. So ready by June, when folks can start to meet again for games and things, it means that it's kind of like it's the next step in the BlackJack legacy kind of channel in the future, really, where I always wanted to get to. And all I'm doing really is I've kind of just been saving up every penny I've earned over the last 12 months from doing this, and and I'm kind of just reinvesting that now back in. Some people have done things like have Kickstarters, and they've done like GoFundMe type stuff and raised money to build studios. I don't believe in that. I think if you're not earning enough money to kind of invest in it, then it's not the right thing to invest in. So what I've done is I'm basically ploughing back in everything I've earned and trying to invest in taking it to the next stage. So yeah, so that's what I've been doing. So yeah, obviously I'm trying to cut the cost down by doing the work myself, which is quite hard at the minute, but yeah, it's coming together. It's coming together. Some cameras got delivered today. I don't think the cameras are good enough quality. I tested one of them. I think I'm going to have to send them back and spend a significant more money on them instead. I try to do it a little bit cheaper because I thought camcorders. I use a camcorder when I'm painting, but I thought, camcorders have come a long way. It should be good enough for what I want for gaming. But when I've kind of like rigged one up to have a look at the quality, it would be a step backwards. And the quality of the video and stuff on my channel, I think is pretty decent. I don't want to take it a step backwards, so I think I'm just going to have to invest more money into it, really. Otherwise, it'll be a bit of an anticlimax, I think. But yeah, so the plan is to have sort of a gaming studio. If companies want to come and kind of like do collaborations, if other channels want to come and do collaboration things, I've got a nice big space, and then it means that this room itself can be a bit of storage for my work in progress. I'm on a tiny little desk in the corner that you'll never get to see here, kind of cramped into the corner of the room because space is really tight. So this will be the kind of like I'll be able to have a lot more space to be able to kind of get around and do some stuff. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. That's why I look like death warmed up. I'm just exhausted basically. I've hardly done anything since before I got ill, and I'm kind of catching up now really. Marcus said he had unloaded delivery of 24 sheets of wood to cut for his friends. Good evening, Anna, as well. How are you doing? Busey said another 3D printer. So yes, I've obviously been looking into 3D printing, and I've been kind of getting up on it. And I've been reading about PLA printers, so like plastic printers as opposed to resin and stuff like that. And Elegoo have a new one that's just come out called the Neptune 2, which is like 150 quid. It's kind of like an entry price point, but the quality is really good for the price. And they're quite hard to get hold of. They're quite difficult to get a hold of. But I thought for the price, the quality level that they can do, it was worth a bit of a punt. So I managed to grab one when they came into stock. Like they were literally kind of in stock and out of stock within about 10 minutes when I ordered it. So yeah, that got delivered today, and it comes kind of partially built. So it took me about 45 minutes to an hour to put it together. I think I've took a picture on my phone actually. So let me, if I show you on here, so we can go to the. So that's the printer ready to rock and roll and to give it a try. I've kind of got it built. I've leveled the bed and I've kind of made sure everything's working. It seems okay, but I just haven't had time to kind of do anything like with starting to print on it really. But the idea being is basically to print myself terrain for in the gaming side of things. I've been kind of looking to see what the quality's like. Obviously, you do get some layer lines, but things have kind of moved on a little bit from the stuff that I used to see. And I think in the long run, 150 quid invested into this will be get me a lot more terrain for the future than 150 quid investing into terrain. So yeah, so we'll see how it goes, but I'm not. I might make some videos about it and stuff like that. I didn't buy it to make videos, but I did buy it to kind of just to reinvest, if you like, back into what I'm doing. VJ says, so I saw that pubs are reopening in the UK. You got plans to take the boys for a beer finally? So pubs are reopening next week, mate, but you can only sit outside. You're not allowed to go and sit inside a pub. So it depends upon the weather, mate. The weather at the minute is pretty garbage. It's been snowing, it's wet, it's freezing cold. So yes, my plan is to take my two older lads and take them for a pint when I can, but it's probably worth waiting another month if the weather's not very good, when we can go inside a pub. So at that point, yeah, I will go and take them for their first drink in a pub after being 18-year-old. Where was this one? Peter says, we all know it's just the shopping list, but Andy wants to show off. Just the shopping list. I don't know what we're talking about there. 90 degrees in Texas. Wow. VJ says, can't read anything on the board due to the depth of field, so your hot ideas are safe. Yeah, that's always the plan, mate. That's always the plan. I wouldn't leave it there if you could read it. Pete says, I was literally just posting my own YouTube video on my pile of shame. I'm honestly too embarrassed to kind of to show what I've got, because to some people they would just look and just go, that's disgusting. And that's not really what's happened. It's kind of built up over years and years and years, and I do get things sent to me more recently as well, which just adds to that as well over time. So it looks like I'm kind of spending money like it's like a fish out of water kind of thing, but that's not the case. Andrew says, I'll do a video if you do yours. 80,000 points of AOS. I ain't doing one, mate. Ezzy, I thought Monday stream was great. I was sorry to have missed it live. Lots of facts and logic. I guess some people just can't let go of their feels. There's a lot of people have been quite emotional about it still. And as we talked about quite later on in the stream as well, which obviously never made it into the clips video on the Tuesday, I think there's a lot of what's going on at the minute with people's mental health and kind of being locked down and people just getting frustrated and getting angry about little things and kind of mentally not being in a great place, and it only takes a small thing to kind of trigger off people's anger these days, I think. Peter Stockdale, good evening to you, mate. Tiberius saying that was an amazing flex by Ash Barker. Yeah. 87 degrees in El Paso. Tiberius is everyone's showing unboxings and he's straightened and painted clean. He always does, mate. I know he gets help painting it. I know normally, what's he called again? Gaming with a cooler guy, I forget what he's called now, his mate. I think they tend to sit and paint stuff and kind of go halves on it generally. I don't know if he has this time, but yeah, he's a quick painter, to be fair. Frantic says, I watched Ash Barker's videos. The game looks like what I needed a year ago instead of Blackstone Fortress. Although improved now, I have the feeling my gaming group will find it repetitive. Yeah, I mean, it is or it isn't for you, and I think those videos are useful. As I mentioned on the stream on Monday, I think it's a shame that they don't get to show them off before people have to kind of pre-order, if you like, because that would give them an opportunity to at least make an informed decision. But it's right up my street. It's the game that I kind of want to play, so I'm happy with it. Hello, buddy Clyber, mate. How you doing? Andrew Fairbanks says, our pastor and his wife turned the master bedroom into a playroom and took one of the bedrooms. Do you know what it is? A while ago, me and my wife were talking about something similar about so this is obviously a spare bedroom here. Our bedroom next door is obviously a bit bigger, and we had once considered switching them over. But nah, it's not fair on everybody else. It's one thing working from home, but it shouldn't take over our home life, if you like. Blizzards says, was there a decision on the painting challenge yet? I've literally never stopped, mate, to get around to do it. I will do it on painting a Malifaux warband, but I will put a caveat in there if there's anybody that wants to paint something that sort of isn't into Malifaux, of like just kind of like paint a 5-man crew or paint a 10-man crew or something like that. So it's open to everybody, but it'll be kind of painting a Malifaux warband. I'll still give people 6 weeks. It doesn't matter what time I started, you'll still have plenty of time to do it. But if you want to get started in it. Tiberius is saying, yeah, his room is the back bedroom and the larger master is a games room. Yeah, it's a bit. I've got twin boys. I'm hugely fortunate. We've got a decent sized house. We've got 5 bedrooms here. So we've obviously got mine and my wife's room. We've got my little boy's room next door. And then my twin boys, my oldest lads, when they come over as well on weekends, or they were before kind of pandemic stuff, they've obviously got their bedrooms as well. So then this is one of the spare rooms that I do in here. But it's just, there's things have amalgamated over time. I just don't have the space to kind of store stuff now. So what happens is things get put up into the loft and they're kind of out of sight, out of mind. And I forget I've got to do videos on stuff. There's not really the space to game in here without kind of being a bit cramped and stuff because of like just general size of the room really. But yeah, so this is going to be the next step, really getting ready for the future. Where was this one? Mark was saying, last year I was going to move from my current room to my back bedroom being bigger, but realised it gets way too much sun in there. Where was that one? VJ says, speaking of cameras, do you stream shoot with digital SLRs instead of camcorders? So, the camera you're watching now is a digital DSLR. I always use a DSLR for my face cams, and I've got a really nice Sigma 1.4 lens, which is what gives that nice kind of blurry background. It also, because it's got such a wide opening, it lets loads of light in, so the room doesn't have to be really, really bright to get a good quality image out of the camera. So I always use a DSLR for that one. The painting video, so when I'm painting here, let's get these figures up as well that we're painting tonight. This is the first sort of camera that I bought. This is a 4K Panasonic camcorder, and the reason I use this is because it's so much easier to use, so I can kind of zoom in and out. It's got like a nice kind of zoom on there as well. It's got a little light on the front if I need to put a bit of extra light on it. It's kind of got a flip out touch screen and stuff, and it's just easy to use. It was the first camera I bought when I kind of upgraded from using my GoPro when I first started the channel. And then obviously as things kind of moved on, I wanted multiple cameras, so then I started investing into DSLRs and stuff. So I've got a couple of DSLR cameras. There's one in the corner here that I leave set up just for doing live streams. And then I've got another Canon camera that's over the other side of the room. That's one I use for my face, and I just move the lens between the two. And then I've got this this camcorder that I use for doing my painting streams. Generally, because the biggest difference is if you're just going to record, a DSLR can only record for 30 minutes before it cuts out, and then you have to press record again. A camcorder can just record until your memory card's full or until your battery runs out. So that's one of the reasons I was going to get camcorders for in the gaming studio, but the quality's just not good enough, if I'm honest. Marco was saying printer sold out in the first 10 minutes. Scalpers. Yes. Lord Maiden says, do you have overnight stay facilities? I'd love to come up and play and record, but I like to make a long weekend of it. To be honest, mate, because my two older lads are off to university there this year as well, and they're not here every single weekend. Obviously at the minute because of the pandemic they're not here, but they've got their mates. They've got, they want to go out and do their own stuff and that. Because they're not here every weekend, there's kind of two spare bedrooms that half the time don't get slept in. So yes, there is somewhere. Peter says the shopping list on the whiteboard. Krabby, good evening, mate. How are you doing? Settling down for a cheeky tipple. I'm on the coffee, mate, keeping me awake at the minute. So Busey saying there's 5 left in stock on Amazon. They must be starting to get a bit more stock in now, mate. They were going pretty quick initially. John says, howdy from a sunny southern Ontario. Hello, mate. And VJ says, yeah, worth the wait. Great to hear, mate. Only 13 years until I can take my little guy, but already looking forward to it. Yes. Owen, that's the guy. I forget. Gaming with the Cool. I forgot what his name was. That was him. Ed says, yeah, I watched the whole thing back. I think lockdowns made people much more intolerant of other people's points of view. I think there's a lot of stuff's happened over the last few years that seems to have. I think the press are to blame for a lot of it. There's this thing called, see if I can remember what it's called now, called outrage porn. And essentially what the press do is they come out with some kind of outrageous statement that, like, all them people over there, look what they're doing, look how stupid that is, kind of thing. And that basically gets the clicks. It's kind of this outrage that gets people clicking, gets people watching. Then what they do is they then watch for the other people who react to it to get outraged by it, and then they report on the outrage of people being outraged about the other outrage. And it's a known kind of phenomenon. You can kind of study it. It's exactly what the press have been doing for a number of years now. And what it does is it just basically pits people against each other. And I think what it's done is it's driven people into a very left, right, black and white kind of opinion or a viewpoint on stuff. And then what's happened is, because of lockdown and everything else, I think it's been kind of exasperated. We saw it starting to happen with things like Brexit in the past, where because it was kind of like a yes-no vote, everybody was basically kind of split down the middle. You had to make a choice one way or the other. And the papers and the press and kind of everybody else loved to basically just pit people against each other, no matter what your opinion was. And this seems to have kind of gone on. You're either pro-lockdown, anti-lockdown, pro-vaccine, anti-vaccine. Like everything is about kind of like you're either pro Black Lives Matter or you're a complete racist kind of thing. That's how the press has basically manipulated everybody these days, and it's really hard to have a kind of a meaningful discussion and a debate with people, because we're just not set up basically in that way to do that. It's difficult to have a nuanced discussion about stuff, and I find that with my live streams, I like to play both sides sometimes. I like to kind of to see things from other people's opinions, or I like to see things from a point of view that I don't always agree with as well, just to kind of put some balance in and to try and understand myself. Like, just because I've got my opinion doesn't mean I'm right, kind of thing. So we don't really get a lot of that kind of stuff these days. Right, I should really get some painting doing, shouldn't I? Andrew Fairbanks says, blame the Euros for DSLR only having 30 minutes. They have tariffs on camcorders. Yeah, it's a different tax band, I think, or something like that, isn't it? And once it records over 30 minutes, it's classed as a camcorder. John saying, so what's the deal with Exodus, Lost World? Any further info? Have you not seen the video I made, mate? Saying, what is Lost World Exodus? We'll talk about it tonight while I go through it. But, so this is the Pride of the Necromortar box set. I've got a couple prepped, ready to paint tonight. I'll go back into the chat and stuff as well, and we'll keep chatting about stuff as I go, but I should really break the paints out, seeing as that's why I'm sitting here. So these are the bases. So this is a 3D printed, a resin printed base topper that I printed out myself. And that's how I'm going to base this Pride of the Necromortar. This is what the bases look like when they're not primed. So this gives you an idea of how they come out. Now this was a sample file for the Kickstarter that I backed for the different bases. Unfortunately, the other miniatures in this set come on a bigger base, and because this sample fit, I'm waiting for the files to do the bigger ones. So these are some of the miniatures that come in the set. So I haven't set these ones up yet. This one is kind of I forget their names now. The box is downstairs, I think. So, but the quality of War Cradle resins is always good. I'm always impressed with them. I'm just moving this light around a little bit to try and get the right kind of level of contrast. But I'm always impressed with just how sharp and clear the details is on these things. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit and just give you a bit of a close up. Try to do it before it goes out of focus. But yeah, they're super crisp, super clean. I'm always impressed with the War Cradle stuff. So yeah, so that's one of the models in the set. We also have this kind of Brave Star Lion, or whatever the hell you want to call him, and this model as well. I mean, look at this sculpting there on the fangs, on the teeth. It is so crisp, really nice, and all the detail around the front here as well. I'm always impressed with these. So yeah, so this is the Pride of the Necromortar set. So these are part of what is known as the Empire, I think it is, for Lost World Exodus. But they can also be used if you want to play them now. You can also use them in Wild West Exodus under the what they called the kind of the native Indian. Oh, the name escapes me. Somebody will remind me. So yeah, we've got this. Let me just zoom out a little bit so you can see the full one of this one. And then we've got this this young lady here as well. But again, yeah, I mean, if you're just into painting miniatures, you're not really bothered about playing games and stuff, I can highly recommend the War Cradle resins. Somebody's just asking John there, saying, are these from a starter? Are they plastic or resin? They're resin, mate. They're 100% resin. They're not from a starter. They're from like a faction box. So that these are all in like a kind of a box set called Pride of the Necromortar, and it's basically like, you know, like in Malifaux where you can buy a core box and it's got like 5 or 6 models in to start a faction with. These are the same basically. But yeah, this is another one of the models. On this model, again, this model comes on a bigger base, but she also comes with a little kind of saber-toothed sort of cat thing as well, which, I mean, let me just show you something in comparison for the size basically. So there's What have I got here? Here we go. I'll tell you what. I've got a pen, so you can compare it to the ballpoint on a pen. So it gives you an idea of the size of this thing and just how crisp the quality is on it. I mean, there's the ballpoint from a pen, basically. So it gives you a little bit of kind of idea on the details. So that's those. That's the faction box. These are the two that I've basically primed up. I'm going to be painting this one this evening, but this one's there in case I have any kind of drying time and stuff like that. So that one's my little backup, and then that one's basically, I don't know if I showed that one properly. That's the other one as well, just to kind of show them off. So yeah, right. So let's try and make a start on here as well. Anna's saying, me and Alan will come for a game or two when you set up. Definitely need those separate beds though. Yes, definitely we'll have to get some games sorted and stuff like that. I'll take some photographs and stuff. At the minute, it's kind of like it's looking a bit rough at the minute, but it's starting to come together. As soon as it looks semi like a room and not like a building site, I'll start to share some pictures and stuff with you all. Tiberius says, doom scrolling is another word. Yeah, you're right, mate. Lord Maiden, I think so too. I had the news that my Curse City book will not come. I saw that, mate. Yeah. Take it on the chin and carry on. The thing is, mate, like, if you want to read it, you can still read it. It'll come out in softback. It'll come out in ebook. The opportunity is still there for you if you want to read. If you want to read the book, if you're only buying it for the card that's inside, I offered to kind of to make a copy of it and send it over to you. If you like. To be honest, I bought the book because I want to read the story. I quite like those hardback books. But to be honest, the card will probably get used once in a blue moon. So, yeah, but like, it's a shame. I think the frustrating bit is when you think you're getting something and then you're told you're not. I think that's the problem. Andrew saying Trump was a master of managing outrage culture. Yeah, that was basically what he. He knew exactly what he was doing. Tony's saying, yeah, him too. I was still on getting any. I think it's the same store, actually, Tony. I think it was the same one that he was buying his from. Ed says, we don't get a lot of nuance, yes, but that makes it all the more valuable when you do find it. Yeah, it's... Let's get some paint on these anyway. Yeah, it's tough, mate, isn't it? It's not fun, basically, just having everybody just having a screaming and shouting match at each other and not actually being able to debate something, not being able to actually get into the point where... Like I would love to. You don't even see it on YouTube and stuff. Like I'm surprised we don't get people actually sitting down to have a discussion, to actually kind of come from two different viewpoints, and not instead of just throwing mud at each other, actually try and get to like the root of well, why do you feel the way you do, and why do you feel the way you do, and do you have all the information? Do you have all the information? Is there something I know that you don't that might influence yours, or something you know that I don't that might influence me? Like that's, I would love to see kind of more of that stuff. Christian sharing the link for the Patreon there. Thank you very much, buddy. Just looking for a brush here, just to pull this paint out. John says I must have missed it. Apologies. Don't worry about it, mate. So the kind of essentially Lost World Exodus is set in the same world as Wild West Exodus, in the same world as Dystopian Wars, which is called the Dystopian Age. And the game, it will basically use the core rules from Wild West Exodus with a few tweaks and a few changes. Excuse me while I just get my paint thinner. With a few tweaks and a few changes. The game isn't, the rules are not out yet. However, because Lost World Exodus and Wild West Exodus share those core rules, they will be compatible with each other. So if you think about War Machine and Hordes, how they were two slightly different games, you know, with managing fury on the beasts and managing focus on the warlords, or warlocks, I should say, or whatever they're called. I forget the name now. It basically, but you could play the factions against each other, and that's exactly what's going to happen in Wild West Exodus and Lost World Exodus as well. So at the minute, there's a few factions available for Lost World Exodus. The miniatures are starting to come out, and you can buy them and use them in Wild West Exodus. So there, that's the 2 minute picture. Right. Let's start getting some paint. I haven't painted in about 3 weeks, so this should be fun to watch. And it's colour scheme wise, I think like the kind of like the official colour scheme is kind of red and gold. I'm never really a fan of red and gold, if I'm honest. I know it's quite kind of like quite iconic for a lot of stuff, but I'm going to go with my kind of my trusty triad of blues that I like to paint, and go with a blue scheme for this one. So more so because, you know, when you were all guessing what do I do for the last 5 minutes before stream starts, normally what I'm doing is thinking, shit, what colour am I going to paint? What colour am I going to paint this model? So if I haven't had time to do much prep for the stream, I tend to be panicking about kind of what colours my model is going to be painted. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm going with this blue scheme. It always works. It always looks good. It kind of accentuates my kind of cartoony, sort of like not very realistic kind of shading and highlighting that I like to do. It works really well with that. So yeah, we'll crack on and we'll do that. Right, let me scroll down and get back to some of these chats now. Mark was saying, holy cow, they're amazing. They are really nice quality, aren't they, mate? Blizzard's there saying, sounds good on the challenge. Where was it? By the way, it turns out I wasn't missing one from my Necromata box. Little Blighter was hiding in the bag of two of the bigger ones. Yeah, they are kind of hidden away, aren't they, mate? I mean, they're really nice the way they come on those kind of resin sprues, and they clean off really nice. There's been a lot. What I will say about these is that there's a lot of thought when they put them on the sprue. There's a lot of thought about where the joins are going to be and that kind of stuff. So you generally get really clean. Like you tend not to get like mold lines in the middle of any awkward places, and the joins are always kind of covering up where you've clipped them off from the resin sprue and stuff. So yeah, the quality of these is fantastic. I'm a big fan of them. If I'll be perfectly honest, I'd never really kind of I bought some Wild West Exodus stuff myself, but they were the old plastics from the starter box. And then War Cradle did send me out some resin Wild West Exodus models as well, which I must admit I do need to get around to at some point. And I really like those, but they've sent me a few bits and pieces recently, and I'm painting them. I'm painting them on these streams, not because I'm kind of I feel like I should because they sent them out to me or anything like that, but just because the quality of them is fantastic, and I'm not getting any games in at the minute, so it's nice to paint some different stuff. I mean, you don't want to see me just painting like Space Marines every week or something like that. There's plenty of channels out there painting kind of Games Workshop stuff. Like, part of the beauty of what I do with this channel is kind of showcasing stuff that maybe you've heard of or maybe you've seen a picture of, but you're like, no, I'm not really sure if it's for me, kind of thing. Like, nobody in my area plays this game. But actually, sometimes it's not even about who plays it. It's just about, you know what it is? Those miniatures are fantastic, and I just want to paint them. I just want to put some paint on them and kind of use them as a nice little hobby project, or use them in a completely different game. So yeah, the quality of these is beautiful. I would say, as far as resin miniatures go, War Cradle's kind of up there with the best. And as far as some of the plastics go, I mean, GW make good plastics. You can't really knock them, but I do like the Weird Miniatures plastics. And then as far as metal miniatures go, there's not that many of them around so much now, but I do like the Infinity metals. And those kind of those three ranges kind of keep coming back, like in the stuff I'm painting, because I just think the quality is great. Marcus is saying he's back. His laptop froze. Lord Maiden says, "Oh yeah, it sucks." Yeah, Blizzard's saying it's snarf. It does kind of look a bit like that, doesn't it? Peter Cummins saying, "Yep, it's the cat from Thundercats for sure." Lord Maiden says, "I agree. I'd like the physical book in my hands. I read enough screens to want actual paper. Thank you for the offer." To be honest, mate, as soon as I've read it, I'm happy to send you the book if you want to read it, mate. Once I've read it, I mean, I literally bought it because I want to read the book. So I will be reading it, but yeah, I'm happy for somebody else to read it when I'm finished with it. It's not like I'm kind of buying it to kind of like to try and make money out of it or anything like that. I just want to read the book. So right, I'm kind of winging this a little bit, really, just putting some colour on, and we'll come back and pick out some metallics and some highlights and stuff like that. So I'm kind of winging where I want to put colour on these at the minute. But it'll look good when it's done. It'll look good to me anyway. It might not look good to you, but it'll look good to me. Right, let's have a little look down here. John saying, got a Gaslands game on Friday night, got massacred, but my helicopter destroyed my brother-in-law's bus. Nice one, mate. Peter Nicholas, nice to see you, fella. He said he's actually painting. Andrew says, reality is that we don't know everything. Some people gain their power from controlling information. Some people have plans inside of plans. I don't even think things are that kind of like... Things are not even that sinister. I think, like... Some people obviously like to kind of like knowledge is power type thing and want to try and keep stuff to themselves. But generally, I don't even think that's half the problem these days, mate. I think these days it's more about just like... my opinion is better than your opinion, no matter who's right. Like, right and wrong is irrelevant now. It's just that, like, I've got an opinion, I'm entitled to my opinion, and I'm going to shout it from the rooftops. And that's that seems to be where we're kind of where we're at now. Doesn't matter about facts or truth or actually sort of even compromise is a bit of a dirty word now. Like, it's seen as a sign of weakness to compromise with somebody, but I don't know, maybe I'm just too long in the tooth. Like, I know kind of like in the US and stuff, like debating used to be quite a big thing in schools and stuff. Like, you have like things like debate clubs and stuff like that. It's never really been something in the UK, and I think we're probably poorer for it. Like, whenever I speak to my kids, like, I always, like my oldest lads, obviously, I always try and kind of like try to kind of explain to them about, you know, you have to see things from other people's point of views as well, and like people feel a certain way about something because something's informed that decision. They didn't just wake up one day and think like, oh, today I'm going to be anti this or pro that. Like, people reach a decision because either they've been kind of informed in that way, or they've experienced something that's made them kind of feel that way about it. I just think we can learn a lot from just understanding why people do what they do. Anyway, that's enough of me being philosophical tonight. I'm far too tired to get serious. But I must admit, like, before I do move on, I must admit when I do these kind of like live stream videos, and sort of talk about something, which generally I'm not doing things to kind of inflame opinions or anything like that. I generally try and do it from a point of, actually, maybe I've learned something, or I have an alternative viewpoint which is less kind of scandalous than everybody else's because of some experience or some knowledge that I've learned. But yeah, people like to just rage anyway, so on the plus side, they get views. Every cloud. They also get me some very, very horrible comments as well, but the less said about that, the better. I've got broad shoulders. I don't really care what people think about me personally. Right. So we'll just get some of that major blue in there. I think we'll take some... there's a bit of fur on the shoulders there, which I think we'll leave for now. But I think we'll come round... we'll have to, I've just touched on it. And we'll do that kind of bit around his neck as well. That kind of strap around here. There's definitely a bit of a Thundercats feel about this crew. They're very much. Forget what he's called now. Was it Pantera or something? Was he called? It's definitely got that feel about him. Just touching that bit. I think that's good enough for me. So that'll get that first colour in. Marcus is saying, while it's healthy to let your anger out in a controlled manner, too many people take it out on each other and it snowballs from there. Yeah, I think it's even letting your anger out. I mean, you should kind of express things when you, rather than let things bottle up and stuff. But like, I think you're right. It's how you direct it. Like, go for a run, go outside and scream from the top of your lungs if that'll help. But yeah, just screaming at other people because they think differently isn't always a good one. Russell Higgins, Warcasters. That's what I was trying to think of. Made for War Machine. I couldn't think of that name. Yes, Warcasters. That's what it is. Right, I'm going to give this guy a bit of darker skin. And I must admit, I tend not to paint darker skin because, not for any kind of racist reason, but because I'm far too lazy. There's so many flesh colours that come from Games Workshop, which basically say like Kislev flesh or Ungor flesh or Flayed One flesh, and they're all light colours. But when it comes to actual darker skin, there's nothing that's obvious. There's things like Blood Reaver flesh, which is not really like the dark skin I'm looking for. So I don't want to kind of overdo it, and I don't want it to look sort of weird either, actually. So I think what we'll do is I'll tell you what we'll do. I think we'll probably start with, I think we'll start with a Dryad bark. Actually not. No, do you know what it is? I'm going to start with something a little bit lighter and then wash it to try and kind of darken it down from there. I tell you what we'll do. We'll give that Blood Reaver flesh a go as like a starting point, and maybe wash down from that. Andrew's saying Gore Grunter fur. I was thinking that, I'm just looking at it from the contrast range, but it's sometimes a bit too dark, to be honest. Let me just give this a bit of a shake. Panthro, that might have been what it was. Yeah, definitely. And that was another reason why I kind of went with that blue. I actually, you know what it is? Do I go with a grey skin, just to kind of? Oh, you know what it is? I'm not going to go with dark skin. I'm going to go with a grey skin for that reason. We're going to go with Storm Vermin Fur. I'm going to give him grey skin. Nice one. Catachan flesh. Do you know what it is? I have every GW paint, which is like a layer paint or a base paint, and Catachan flesh is not. Oh, there it is. Ah, there it is. Let's have a look at that colour. Yeah. Actually, yeah, you're probably right. But no, I'm going to go with grey now. It's going to be my my Thundercats. Tiberius says that's dangerous. You should pick your tone triad before starting on a colour. I don't always use triads, mate, on all colours. I tend to on the focus colour of what the miniature is going to be. But when it comes to things like skin tones and stuff, I generally put a base colour down and then a wash, and then just kind of highlight back from that. I tend not to worry too much about it, really. I'm not that finicky a painter, if I'm honest. So, but no, I had a last minute change of heart there. We're going to go with the grey flesh to bring in the air. Yeah, a bit of Thundercats feel to it. Bring back my childhood. The blue wasn't intentional, I don't think. I think that's almost what kind of reminded me about when I saw that look to it. Right. I mean, let's be honest, they're not exactly human looking, are they? They could have any colour skin we want them to, so. Right, let's start on the back here. I might have watered this a little bit thin, to be honest. Oh no, I think that's going to be okay. It's not getting a very good point, this. I'm going to change my brush. Try it. Let me scroll back a little bit here. Tony's saying you got... I'll scroll back a little bit. Bruce Patnode says, no specs for painting. Consider yourself lucky, my friend. I have to use reading glasses and one of those magnifier headsets to see what I'm doing. To be honest, mate, I do sometimes. I've got a really cheap pair of reading glasses, which I look like a complete dick with them on. They were like about like £2 or something from like a supermarket, and I do sometimes put them on when I'm painting. But when I'm on a live stream, I can't get it close enough to me to make them focus at the right focal length. So I tend to just go with it and not really worry too much. So like you'll never see my best work on a live stream on a painting stream, because half the time I'm kind of guessing where the brush is going. Like here, for example, I can't really see around the back of here. So if I was going to, I'd be doing this, which is no good for the camera. So I've almost had to kind of learn to teach myself to paint a slightly different way, just so that it's on the camera most of the time. So the actual miniature is a lot further away from where I would normally, if I was just sitting painting kind of on my own, just for a bit of fun type thing. It slows me down doing it this way, and then obviously I'm concentrating on chatting as well, so it's not like I'm going really steady or anything, but it's fun, it's enjoyable. This is the only social interaction I get, so I'll forego quality for the sake of actually some conversation. So, all right. I didn't go all the way around with that blue. Actually, I need to follow that round a bit. But yeah, we'll go with the grey skin, I think, for Panthro, whatever the hell we decided he was called. He's got some kind of like armor on the backs of his fingers there, so I think we'll probably do them silver. We'll just paint into the inside of his palm there, and we'll just pick around the edges here. Tony's saying he got the Soul Hunters and the Nautilus crew for Lost World Exodus. They are nice, mate, aren't they? I've been eyeing them up myself, if I'm honest. John says, I think my painting has gotten better as my eyesight has deteriorated. My painting has probably got better when I started to care less about what it looked like. And I think I probably took more risks. I probably kind of relaxed and just settled into not worrying that I would mess it up. Like if I mess it up, let's be honest, I mean, other than painting on a live stream where everybody sees it, which the other side of that is it proves to everybody that, like, you know, everyone makes mistakes and we're all human kind of thing. So I'll either mess it up, or I won't. So I think that was one of the biggest step forwards for me. I wouldn't say my paintings improved to the point of, like, I'm not winning any awards with it, but I'm certainly faster than I was, because I'm probably a little bit more carefree about when I'm painting now. And I certainly don't sort of stress about it. So that would be my biggest advice to a kind of like a new painter, I think, now, is just don't worry. Just give it a go. Like, yeah, it's a hobby. It's meant to be fun. Like, nobody is great at everything. Nobody is like a brilliant painter when the first time they pick up a paintbrush. Like, I think I saw a picture online the other day, which was, I think it was Angel Heraldez, and the first miniature he ever painted. Like, the man might be superhuman now, but he didn't start superhuman, if you like. Like, his painting is absolutely beautiful. I love his style, but that's something he learned and kind of mastered over time. I also heard something as well, which basically said, like, in our lifetime, we don't really have a lot of time to be really, really good at lots of things. Like, at best, if you want to be like brilliant at something, like you've got to dedicate time and energy to it, to that one thing really. So just pick and choose very carefully what you decide to dedicate that time to. And I think for me, like, it's not painting. So I know I'm never going to win awards. I know I'm never going to be kind of like people like looking at my miniatures and going, oh wow, like how did you do that effect? How did you do that blend? How did you do that? Nobody's ever going to be looking at my stuff doing that. But I'm all right with that. Like, as long as they look good enough on a tabletop, that's good enough for me. And I think sometimes people definitely do get caught up in that feeling of comparing themselves to everybody else, or feeling that everybody's gonna kind of pass criticism on my miniatures when I paint them, or like I don't want to show them off. It's a shame, really. It's meant to be fun. If you enjoyed it, then it's a good miniature. That's not a bad start. Where are we up to here? Marcus says, my friends really find it weird that I actually don't stay mad for more than an hour and then move on, but they have seen me pissed once and they're generally scared to help them. I think I'm kind of like I get annoyed at stuff, but then I do move on quite quickly from it. Like, it's not, I tend not to bear a grudge. I tend not to kind of fester on things for too long. But a lot of that has come from me trying to kind of, when I wasn't in a great place, really. Like, I don't want to kind of like sort of make light of it, because it wasn't like I had serious issues, but I was struggling. Like, I was struggling to kind of like to rationalize some things, really, because I wasn't in a great place with my day job and with people I work with because of certain things. But and it spilled over into my home life, really. And through me trying to work through that, like, why do I feel this way? Why do I let certain things bother me this much? I kind of learned to let things go, really, and I'm certainly much happier for it. Doesn't mean things don't piss me off. It just means that I don't let them ruin my day, kind of thing. We might end up painting these a different colour by the end. Maybe like a brown leather or something, but it's nice just to get some colours into them. Right, starting to come together. Marcus says, it's why my group, the friend that let the term "let us sleep and Marcus lie" is a thing. John says, I got a free cyber hound from WWE, Wild West Exodus, from a magazine. Cool little doggy. That was the yes, I know which ones you mean, mate. It was from like a miniature war games thing, wasn't it, or something? Right, I think we will go with black contrast into the trousers there, I think. Russell Higgins says, these are great plastics. I love my Mr. Ears. They're resin made, but yes, they are fantastic. Andrew Fairbanks says, love Warmer Hordes, but I hated the rules. Really wish it would get an AOS style makeover and really simplify everything. It's funny you say that. I used to play a lot of War Machine and Hordes. I used to kind of play competitively and tour around and do the UK Nationals and European Team Championships and stuff like that. And I never found the rules complicated. I find AOS complicated purely because the stuff is just spread all over the place. So I mean, we all like different things, don't we? But that's a prime example of the fact that we all like different things. If we all like the same stuff, would be a boring lot, wouldn't we? Just shows that there's different games for different gamers. Right, I need to get a slightly sharper brush for that. Let's use this one. Let me scroll down a little bit. Lord Bain saying, thank you very much. You want anything? Nah, don't worry about it, mate. Honestly, just once I've read it, I've read it. I tend not to go back and read books more than once, to be honest. And I'm quite kind of, it's why most of the books I read, I don't really read. I listen to on audio books. Or I'll just get them on my Kindle, but I quite like those. I like the Black Library books that are not like based in the the Horus Heresy or the main AOS universe. I like the little side stories. I've been meaning to pick up maybe one of the new Warhammer like sort of horror stories to give them a go and see what they're like. I really liked the Warcry anthology one. I enjoyed the Warcry Catacombs book. That's more my kind of stuff, rather than like being part of like a massive sprawling like 30 book series type thing. I just like those kind of little short stories. Or I really like the Warcry anthology one because it was like, was it 4 different stories about the four different main factions that came out when the game launched. And I like the fact that this is basically like a story basically just set in Ulthuan Khan, and of course there'll be references to kind of AOS and other bits and pieces, but predominantly it's a Cursed City story. Right, I'll put just a bit of black on the bottoms of these. Just fill these bits in, and then we'll touch up the bits of blue stuff where where I obviously got caught in two minds about whether it was going to be blue or it wasn't going to be blue. Right, you just put that to one side. Where are we up to? Christian sharing the link for the BlackJack Legacy t-shirts. When I get 5 minutes, folks, literally 5 minutes, I need to do some more t-shirt design stuff. So hopefully I'll get to the Bacon Club one. Hopefully for next week. I wanted to do it for this week, but I just ran out of time. Are you done? Hello, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Says, I managed to order Cursed City thanks to your preparation tips and heads up that I had to be on time. So thanks for that. I managed to get some of my friends enthusiastic to play it with me when done. Nice one. First of all, congrats, you got your copy, mate. And I'm glad that I managed to help. And even better if you've got some friends interested in giving it a go with you as well. Just tidy up some of these little bits around here. Yeah, there was a couple of bits I'd kind of missed. Right, we'll let that dry for 5 minutes, that contrast paint. I'll have a drink of my cold coffee now because I haven't got a drink of water with me, so this is going to be interesting. And we'll pop back to the main chat for 5 minutes, and I'll drink my cold coffee and try and catch up. How far behind am I? I'm only half an hour behind. Peter Cooman says he's off early shift tomorrow. Good night, mate. Andrew Fairbanks says late Mark 2. I have the displeasure of being undefeated at 1-0. I played in Mark 2. I didn't play in Mark 3. I only ever played at that. Just felt there was so much to remember just starting. I get that the learning curve is quite steep, but actually it's not too bad once you kind of get your head around it. But I can imagine Infinity is very much the same as that one as well. Marco says Dark Flesh cheat, 2 coats of Dark Oath Flesh. Is it really? Dark Oath Flesh, is it? Where's that one? Where the hell's Dark Oath Flesh? I can't even see it. Acadian, Blood Reaver. What colour is Dark Oath Flesh? Is it a contrast paint? Oh yeah, there it is, right in front of me. Yeah, I can see it now, mate. Yeah. Anyway, we've decided to go grey now. I'm well behind the chat. Let me catch up. Thundercats Raw. Christian, share the link for the merch as well. Thanks very much, mate. John saying, it's amazing to see how far this hobby has come since I first started in about 78, when painting miniatures was tough, nothing but enamels or oils. Yeah, you definitely started before I did, mate, that's for sure. I didn't really start getting into painting until I was in my 30s. I'm much later to the hobby than a lot of people would potentially kind of think. I dabbled a little bit as a kid, but like I probably had like about 5 miniatures and about 3 tins of paint, like little enamel paints. That was probably about as far as I got with it. John saying he wrecked so many pricey sable brushes. I think I was probably just painting with those horrible like plastic brushes that you get like, you know, like on the front of like a kid's magazine. It would be that kind of stuff. Tony saying Mr. E is a beautiful mini. It is, mate. Marcus says then, if you've not read it already, I very much recommend The Vampire Genevieve. Is that one of the new horror ones, mate? Is it? Let me have a look. Tony says not allowed to own my curse seat until Monday because it's for my birthday. Oh, that's harsh, mate, isn't it? That one. Mark was saying it's a contrast paint. Yeah, I think I found it now, mate. Stu saying got the Vampire Genevieve omnibus delivered today. I read the first few pages and it's got me hooked. I might pick up the ebook for that, then, mate. I might. Or actually, I've got a couple of credits of Audible as well to use, so I might have a look for ebooks and stuff as well. Colin says, have you got a wall of paints? I have got a wall of paints, mate. I wonder if I can show you. In fact, I tell you the easiest way to do it is if I take a picture of what's in front of me, and then I can show you exactly what's in front of me. So, let me go across to here. So this is what's in front of me. So the gaps are the paints that I've lifted down from the wall. But yes, and as you can probably see there, can you see how it says Black Templar there on the bottom? Every one of these paints, you can just see sneaking out the back there, has got the colour behind them as well. So I know exactly, they all go back in the same colour. And so basically what I've got is, I've got all my like washes and stuff at the top. And then from here to here, these are all base paints. And then from here to, where's it, to here, are all layer paints. And then basically along the bottom rows is all my my contrast paints. So because this is my full-time job now, I decided to invest in having a range of paints, and GW stuff is just easy for me to pick up basically. And obviously I got some discount buying it in bulk as well. So so yes, so that's my wall of paints. That's my paints to choose from. So I think it's the one thing I kind of treated myself when I went full-time and started doing this, was like, if I'm going to start doing painting streams every Wednesday, what I used to do was I painted everything the same colour because I didn't have a lot of paints, to be honest. So yeah, that was it. John says, I can still remember the first acrylic paints for miniatures showing up around 80 to 81, the first golden age. Yeah, that was well before my time. I think I was definitely still kind of, when I was first painting a couple of bits and pieces, it was definitely Humbrol stuff back then. Rathammer saying, wow. Tizzy Brain Drain, hello Rathammer, by the way. Tizzy Brain Drain saying, impressive, most impressive. Do you know what it is, mate? It was just like, I think it looks more impressive because they're all in colour order. So if you look at them, what's even sadder is, if you go on the Games Workshop website where you pick the colours, this is the order that they're on the website. So I know exactly where to go if I need to reorder any, or I know what I'm missing just by looking. So by having the names of the pots behind them, I can instantly see kind of like everything goes back in the same place. A bit of OCD, that's all it is really. Rathammer says, mine are in a shoebox. Mine used to be in a drawer here, mate. And it's just one of those things when I'm painting on stream, like raking around in a drawer looking for the paint that I want, to find it's empty or it's run out or it's dried up or something like that. It's just nice to be able to do this one. John saying, he started with Airfix and Matchbox kits, then the Tamiya tanks. I never really got into the plastic kits. I used to get some of those polystyrene aeroplanes that I used to get like at the fairground and stuff, but I never really got into Airfix kits when I was a kid. Blizzard says, we bought a Vortex shaker with a tax return. I love it. I've got a nail varnish shaker that I use when I'm just painting on my own, but they're a bit noisy for on a live stream. It's the same with an airbrush. It's a bit too noisy for a live stream. You just don't want that kind of coming through the microphone. So I don't tend to use them. That's why I just shake stuff on stream. But yeah. Anyway, let's get back. Some of this paint has dried a little bit now. Marcus says, having started painting minis in 2018, this is truly the golden age of learning. As long as you put the time into actually doing rather than just watching videos. Oh, I think that's it. I mean, your painting is exactly kind of an example of that, mate. That if you put the time in, you can make some. You can do some fantastic stuff. Your painting is, I mean, it's amazing, but like I know how long you've been painting as well, and it's not that long, which is even more impressive. I'm just not that dedicated to improving my painting, if I'm perfectly honest. Right. So we're going to go in now with a bit of metallics and pick out some of the kind of like the nunchuck stuff. Wilson Noguera, hello. If you're in the chat, hello, nice to see you. If you're just subscribing because you've watched one of my videos, thank you very much. Tasty Brain Drinks says nothing wrong with a bit of OCD. I'm pretty. It's one of the reasons that I get frustrated about lack of space in here. Really, is because I like to be organised. I'm a pretty organised person, really, and I'm definitely a kind of like a case of like if I'm finished using something, I tend to put it back where it was, and I know where everything is. Like all of my kind of miniatures and my games, like they're scattered around all over the house in cupboards and in the loft upstairs and bits and pieces. But I know exactly where each one is. Like if somebody said to me, like where's your Batman kind of Gotham City Chronicles game, I could literally go now, get the ladders, get into the loft, and go and get it. I know exactly where it is in the loft. So I know where everything is. I'm organised. The problem is I'm just running out of space, and this room was a prime example of that, really. So I'm looking forward now, because this room's kind of is a lot more empty now. I can get a little bit more desk space in here, so I'm not kind of cramped up in the corner here so much when I'm sitting painting. And get a bit more desk space. I can get some storage in here and things for bits of games and stuff, and then down in the kind of in the gaming studio bit, I can get like. I'll get like display cabinets for putting armies in and stuff, and then I'll get like racking and stuff to put terrain on the organised and things like that as well. And it just means everything is where it needs to be when I need it, as opposed to just scattered into a cubby hole where I can find a bit of space. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting all kind of properly organised and stuff. That's how sad things have become. That's the highlight of my life now, just tidying my room. Oh, how the mighty have fallen, eh? I used to get excited about going on holiday and seeing friends. I feel like a long way off now. Right, so all I'm doing here, folks, is I'm kind of idly just picking out some bits in what have I got? Iron Hands Steel. I'm just picking some bits out just to highlight it, because what I'll do is I'll go over it with a wash to pull it all together, and then I kind of highlight it back up from this color, because I've used this color many times. If anybody saw my my dwarfs, in fact, I'll show you something from my dwarfs, because I know exactly where it is. So this is what I painted for my King's Award dwarfs, using this exact same colour scheme that I'm using now. So what I did was, you can see here, you might be able to see with the light, there's basically 3 different blues here. So you can see in the recesses it's this dark Sotek green. So I start with that, and that's the colour that I've kind of started with there. You might be able to see a little bit better on this dwarf on the top there. Start with that, with the Agrax wash over it, and then start to highlight it back, so you get those nice almost cartoony highlights, if you like. And that's basically the blue color that I'll be going with. You can see on the dwarfs there on the top how the wash is kind of pooled up and stuff like that, and just gives a bit of definition. But then when you highlight back, it doesn't look quite as basic as basically a wash and a highlight. So yeah, I'm quite happy with how that turned out. So that's my dwarf army. So yeah, well, that's what I'm doing basically. So I'm just picking out some areas of silver that essentially what will happen is once I wash it over, it'll darken that silver down, and then it'll all blend in with part of the overall model. John says, only cars I build are Gaslands cars. I've played Gaslands and it's a good game, but I must admit the kind of the Matchbox cars thing has never been a big draw for me personally. I can see why people love it, and if you've got like bits boxes from years and years of kind of bits of guns and weapons and stuff like that, I can see why people would find it fun. But I'm not much of a kit basher, so I tend not to have like loads of bits boxes and stuff. Connor says, my first ever mini stares at me while I continue to learn. Thick, chalky McCrag blue slapped on with all the details gone. Now I thin and prime correctly, live and learn. I tell you what, mate, it's like sometimes you haven't got to be too hard on yourself, because everybody starts somewhere. It's not like you watched a load of videos that said thin your paints, and then you went, screw that, I'm just going to slap it on. Like you didn't know any better. You bought your stuff and you were excited to get started. But what you have to remember is, no matter how good or how bad your first miniature is, and this is for everybody, not just for you, Connor, no matter how good or bad it was, you're still doing it. Like there was something about that experience that you enjoyed enough to want to do it again. So don't never kind of give yourself a hard time about the quality of your painting. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be enjoyable. We do it because it's enjoyable. Like we do it because it's relaxing. We do it because we enjoy the finished, like the enjoyment of actually finishing something. So by all means, put the time and effort in to get better if that's what you want to do. But never beat yourself up because you're not as good as somebody else, or because you think your stuff's garbage. As long as you're enjoying it. It's always the aim. Always. Like, I'm not doing anything special here. I'm just kind of poking the brush around, really picking some bits out, trying to push it in the right place. Right, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll paint that whole thing silver, I think. And then we'll highlight that bit, the glowy bits up like sort of blue, or actually I like to put a little spot of red when I'm doing the this colour blue. So I think what we'll do is we'll highlight these bits out with a spot of red once we come to do it back. John says, I have too many hobbies, which is partially why it takes me so long to finish anything. I'm riding too many horses at once. I'm about to finish a batch of like 20 models. There's nothing wrong with having too many hobbies, mate, because you know what? That's the whole point. They're hobbies. You don't, and I've said this many times, so I apologise if I sound like a broken record, but you don't have to be good at your hobby. You just have to enjoy it. Like, that's the bit I think a lot of people forget. Like, people want to turn their hobby into their full-time job, and I've done that, so I'm in no way to comment on people that. But I think in this day and age, like, there's almost this there's this idea that your hobby has to turn into some kind of side hustle, or it has to start making money, or like people start posting on Instagram and the next thing, like, they're trying to turn it into a business, and they're trying to be an influencer or whatever they call them now. And I don't just mean like miniature hobby, I mean any hobby really. Like, sometimes I think people forget that a hobby it's meant to be that thing you do when you finish work for the day to switch your brain off and give you something enjoyable. That is a choice. It's not something you're being forced to do, if you like. I think we quite often forget that bit. The difference for me is where I've got to with this is my hobby is my job. However, it's still my hobby. So mine is about more about knowing when to kind of switch off, when to kind of stop looking on Facebook, when to stop looking in the Discord group, when to stop answering messages, when to stop chatting hobby when I'm kind of like, when I'm meant to be finished for the day kind of thing. But because it is still my hobby, I still continue to do it, even like when technically I'm not working anymore. But I guess when you have your own business, you're never really not working anymore. So, John says, I don't have just bits boxes, I have bits bins. Yeah, I couldn't even go and put my hand on any spare bits now. That's how little I kind of keep from that kind of bits and pieces. I'm just not really into kit bashing. It's why things like these miniatures are why I love them, because they don't come with options. I don't have to like agonize about am I putting the right weapons on them? Is that the right weapon? Does that weapon, like, have I gone over the top of the points because I've put the wrong weapon on? I just like to kind of build a miniature that was designed to look like that. So, Andrew Fairbanks says, I recently bought a Dwarf Rune Lord, my first model, just to paint again and see how far I've come over 7 years. It's quite nice just to paint for painting's sake, isn't it? Just to paint because you like it. Right. So now we're going to go in with the Agrax Earthshade, and we're just going to go over everything. Just thin down with a bit of water. Just keep it moving about so it doesn't pool up too much. But all we're doing is we're picking out the shadows, darkening it down, and when it's all dry, we just come back and we start highlighting it back up again. So you won't see half of the Agrax Earthshade by the end. And I know it looks like I'm just kind of slapping it on and just bathing the whole model, but there is some kind of method to the madness. I'm keeping it moving about. I'm trying not to let it pool too heavily. I'm making sure I don't miss any bits. So it might just look like I put a big slap of it on, but then I don't just kind of like leave it there to pool up. I must remember to order some more Agrax Earthshade actually when I put my next order in for something. I need to kind of remember to get ahead of myself with some things. I've got like there's some paints I know I'm really low on, and I've kind of bought backups so that they're there when I need them. But shades I always seem to forget about until it's too late. Andrew Fairbanks says, we do not need a hobby addicts group. We would just enable one another and all go broke. Stu says, they weren't painting videos when I started painting on the internet. I think I've got, and if I don't think, I know I have in a cupboard, I've got the old original kind of GW painting books, like how to paint a space marine and those kind of stuff. I've still got those, and that's what I bought when I first started. And even they weren't like they were better than nothing at all. But I can't even remember at what point I started watching YouTube videos, really. It was funny because we were just talking about this. Like, when I lived on my own, before me and my wife got together, I didn't even have internet at my flat. Like, and I was trying to think, so what the hell did I do? Like, I obviously didn't, like, I didn't have Netflix. I didn't go on YouTube. I must have just sat and played PlayStation or something like that. Like, I can't even remember. Like, I must have just watched like normal TV and read books and stuff like that. But yeah, it's kind of weird. But yeah, I don't remember really at what point I started watching YouTube. Like, to the point where it interested me enough that actually, like, gosh, I'd like to give it a go, kind of thing. Because I'm not the most outgoing person. Like, it's not like I'm kind of like some egotistical person who's like I've got things to say and everybody needs to hear it. That's not how my YouTube kind of thing started. Mine was more about making videos. Because when I first started doing YouTube videos, it was more about, you know how people share pictures on Facebook? That's kind of how YouTube was. It was like there was a community of like hobbyists who basically just posted videos to show each other what they were doing. Like, oh, this is what I've painted this week kind of thing. That's what YouTube used to be about when I started. And it's developed over time, like, to the point where people spend a lot more time and a lot more money doing it, and people have spent money on fancy cameras, and like, people are trying to improve their quality and look more professional, and like, people have learned a lot from other channels, if you like, outside of tabletop gaming, on how to improve and when I say improve, I don't mean necessarily like, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just mean like maybe improve the quality of the sound, the audio, maybe like sort of putting background music in and all these kind of things. Like, it's come a long way from when I first started. But yeah, I never had any intentions of this becoming my full-time job. I just grew to love it. I love the interaction that live streams. I love the community building that it does. I love the editing process. I love filming. I love creating something from nothing to like to a 10-minute video that somebody can watch, kind of thing. I just find the whole creative process really enjoyable. But yeah, things changed a lot over the years when I was doing it. Blizzards was saying there. Oh, sorry, what was the one before that one? Lord Maiden says, enjoy yourself with it all. You only need to please yourself. Exactly, mate. John saying, a buddy gave me the Citadel Expert ink set in '96, and that was a game changer. Ink washers have always been around, like Agrax Earthshade or Devlin Mud, as it was when I first started. It's kind of always been around in my era, so I was never of that kind of era of people before washers. So yeah, I was obviously, yeah, didn't know I was born. Everything got dipped in Devlin Mud when I first started. To be fair, not much has changed. Everything gets dipped in Agrax Earthshade now. But you can kind of see what I'm doing with it, folks. Like, it's like there's a little bit that's kind of maybe a bit heavy here, so we'll thin that out a little bit. But generally, it's just to pick out the definition of the model. Really, I'm not like bathing it in it. It's not like lathered on. Blizzards, that was it. It was saying it would drive me nuts. Whenever I expressed an interest in a hobby, always my parents' first question was if I could make money at it. I've kind of, it's funny because like the one thing I've told my two lads is the first thing they should be looking at, like in a career and stuff, is that they should be looking to find something they enjoy. Don't look at how much money it makes. Don't look at like kind of like what social status it is or anything like that. Try and find something that you enjoy, because if you enjoy doing something, you'll never feel like it's working. Like, you'll never feel like it's hard work kind of thing, because you'll enjoy doing it. And also, you'll tend to dedicate yourself to it, which in turn will make you pretty good at it, which in turn will make money. So it's kind of, I'm trying to encourage them to look at life a bit differently, really. Andrew says, and now it's Sub-Zero. Yeah. It has got that kind of look about him, hasn't it? Tasty Brain Drain says, toasty. John Ashley says, nice, it's coming together. Yeah, it's amazing. A bit of a wash over the top. Just kind of starts to, a little bit of silver, picking it out. Just starts to kind of pull bits and pieces together. He's seen very nice details on that mini. Yeah, they are really crisp, mate. Andrew says he won our store's best contrast model category, so I'm technically an award-winning painter. There you go, mate. Christian sharing the link for Amazon. Thank you very much, folks. If you are shopping on Amazon and you click through my link, you still pay the same. It still gets the same delivery. It doesn't cost you any more, but I just make a small commission for kind of sort of sending you to Amazon through my link. That's all. So if anybody does shop on Amazon and kind of wants to save that link as a kind of like a bookmark on your desktop or something like that, and remember to shop through it, it really, honestly, it does make a big difference. It really helps. It never used to, because nobody ever used it, but people are starting to use it now, and it's just a nice little kind of an extra way to help the channel out and help me keep going. John said, that's awesome. I've never entered a competition, save custom Hot Wheels and won People's Choice. I've never entered a paint. I've kind of displayed my models when I've been to like a tournament or something like that. I've displayed my models and like during the lunch break, but never with the intention of like entering a competition, if you like. But yeah, my painting is definitely not on the level of like I'm gonna enter a painting competition or I'm gonna try and win something. I really do admire folks that do and the quality of their work, but it's yeah, it's not the bit I enjoy. So right, we'll let that wash dry out a little bit. And I think in the meantime, we might as well start and pick out some of the blues on this one as well now. Tiberius is looking bra. John says it's funny really. I've always felt I was in the wrong place, and seeing the miniature war game scene in the UK through YouTube confirms that. Should have been in the UK. I mean, most things are not UK based. Let's be honest. I mean, even like YouTube is it's very much kind of like an Americanized type thing, really. But yeah, wargaming is one of very few things that does seem to have been very much led by the UK. Marcos says, will you go to the Mantic events? Which particular ones are you talking about, mate? I used to always go to their open days. I have been to one of their Clash of Kings events, but just as a spectator. But at some point, yeah, I probably will, mate. I probably will go to some Mantic events. In the same way, I'll probably go to some other events this year when things start to kind of open up again. I want to meet people. I want to get out and play games. I always say the tournament scene for me is always more about the opportunity to meet new people and play more games. That's always been my aim. I never go to a tournament expecting to win. I never go to a tournament trying to kind of like there's really good prizes or anything like that. I tend to pick up my ticket purely to have the social experience of playing games and meeting people. So yeah, I definitely will be attending their events and any other events for games that I play as well. Right, I'm kind of winging it here. I'm just looking on the model and there's some kind of armor plating which I assume would be the same color as her compatriot there. And we'll just work our way through it and see where we end up. And I'm carrying on with this. This is like I always tend to do this on a live stream. I have a bit of a backup model, so if I've got a wash drying or something like that, I've got something else to be getting on with. But yeah, I've not made any kind of plans about what's going to be what. I think we'll keep the material that colour as well, because I think that that quiver breaks up the blue. So rather than painting the quiver blue as well. John says the wargame scene in North America seems widely scattered compared to the UK, and honestly, the best games in miniatures seem to come from the UK. I think what it is, mate, is obviously Games Workshop is the dominant force. So like the Nottingham area is kind of, its nickname was the Lead Belt because that's where pretty much most of the wargaming companies started from. But essentially what's happened is over time, a lot of people have started at Games Workshop and then have left to start up their own companies or go and work for competitors. And so the wargaming scene is definitely still really focused in the UK and focused around Nottingham. It's starting to spread out a little bit now, so you've got people like War Cradle who are based down south. You've got companies like Steamforge Games who are based up in Manchester, but the vast majority is still kind of Nottingham based or not too far away from Nottingham. And that is really what's caused the kind of, obviously Warlord Games as well is a prime example. Warlord Games, the guys used to work for GW, they got made redundant, they invested their money in and started up Warlord Games. Ronnie at Mantic, based in Nottingham as well, exactly the same thing. He used to work for Games Workshop, invested his money and started up Mantic. So there's a lot of history around that. I guess it's a bit like Silicon Valley or anything like that, really, like where people tend to move between those companies as well. So I think that's one of the reasons why the UK has been like that. But I think when you think it's more fractured in the US, I think what you find actually is in the US, it's probably, I think from a community point of view, like in the UK, our gaming stores are not particularly good in general. I'm saying in general because there are some very good gaming stores, but they're few and far between. Most stores are relatively small, and you tend not to like play in the store unless the store's got a decent amount of space. So what we tend to do is in the UK, we tend to have a lot of gaming clubs, which are in like community halls, they're in church halls, they're in kind of basically like you'll get somebody who's a kind of like a keen keen gamer really, who wants to start a club, and they basically sort of invest their time and energy in setting up a gaming club basically, and that's more how the UK scene is, I would say, that you have lots of kind of gaming clubs. But what that does do is it fractures people into smaller sections. So I don't think it's as simple as you might think it is from the outside. John saying people in North America don't often form war games clubs because their homes are often larger with basements they can actually use. There is that as well in the UK. Most people, like housing in the UK, it's pretty small, to be honest. Not everybody's got space for a 6x4 table. It's one of the reasons I think gaming has come down to skirmish levels, 3x3s and 4x4s are a lot more kind of familiar these days. But yeah, it's kind of like when I see on TV or online, and I see American House with these huge basements and stuff. That's the dream. I would love to have that kind of space. We just don't have it here. Gavin Watkins, hello mate, says, I can confirm I'm the chairman of a club in South Wales. I've tried a few times to get the clubs to socialise more with tournaments, but it's often difficult. I know exactly what you mean, mate. I think a lot of clubs are very insular. They almost don't want to advertise other clubs exist in case people leave and go to other clubs. I remember I used to go to a club on a Sunday afternoon, and it got to a point where basically I stopped going because Sundays weren't convenient for me. They were a bit of a family day, and we did other things on a Sunday afternoon. So I ended up stopping going to the club, and a little while later I found another club who played War Machine, which is the game I was getting into at the time, and they played on a Saturday morning, and it was perfect. My little boys had guitar lessons, so my ex-wife used to take the boys to guitar lessons. I went and played at the War Games Club. We were finished by lunchtime, and then we had the rest of the weekend basically to do the stuff that we wanted to do as a family. And the guy, or one of the guys, the guy that was a chairman of the old club that I used to go to on a Sunday, saw my photograph online that I'd taken part in this War Machine tournament, and basically kind of like ranted at everybody in the club and basically at me on this online forum about how disgraceful it was. Like I didn't have time to go to their club, but I had time to go to other people's and stuff. And that for me summed up what gaming clubs were like in the UK. That there was just like not everyone, I hasten to add, but like people were so protective of their little club, and like some people enjoy being the dictator, being the chairman of the club more than actually playing the games. Connor says, my local GW closed about 2 months after I got into really painting. The local model store has fantastic stock, but they're very model train, RC racing focused, so there's rarely painters in there. Painting is something I would love to do more of as a social thing, like sitting with people painting. It's one of the reasons I do these live streams, is because actually it's quite nice to sit and paint and have a conversation. Painting can be a very isolating and solitary experience, which is great when you've got loads of things going out on in your life. If you've got really busy at work, or you've been busy all weekend playing games or whatever, it's quite nice to grab a couple of hours on a Monday or a Tuesday night and sit and paint for a while and have a bit of peace and quiet. The difference at the minute is there is so much peace and quiet kind of thing because we're not really leaving the house and going anywhere and doing anything else. So I like the social aspect of sitting painting together. I hear about people who have like painting clubs and stuff. I've never even sort of seen one of those things. Andrew's saying twice the size of Alabama. Thanks, Google. Google. Stu says, even if you did have a large basement in the UK, imagine trying to invite people into your basement. You'd be locked up over here. Yes. Tasty Brain says that there are people who live in my part of North America who'll be like, basement? What the hell is a basement? I keep seeing I see some people, especially, I don't know what it is, but I see a lot of it in the Kings of War Fanatics group on Facebook, about people who have huge big like gaming basements with like bars in and stuff like that. Now they might be like the kind of like a tiny amount. It might be just somebody with a big house, but I think generally houses in America are bigger. Like houses in the UK are relatively small. I'm quite fortunate. Like I'm really lucky that me and my wife basically kind of had good jobs and we saved a lot of money, and houses in the northeast of England are a lot less expensive than they are kind of in the south of England and stuff like that. So you get a lot more for your money here, basically. So we're really fortunate. We've got like a decent sized house with not a huge mortgage, but it's not common in the UK. It's maybe a little bit more common the further north you go, but yeah, it's like, look at London as an example. You get like a 1-bedroom flat for about £500,000 in London. Andrew says Texas is 2.86 times larger, but half the population. Yeah, Connor says none of my friends are into painting. I've completed my last 2 models to your streams. Well, I'm glad you kind of have some background, mate. It's nice just to have a bit of chatter and a bit of banter. Like I often put like a film on Netflix or something, or I'll put somebody else's stream on, like listen to a stream back, or I'll put an audio book on. Sometimes it's the conversation, it's the voice, rather than just listening to music all the time. It's nice just to kind of hear sort of like a voice while you're in the background. Gavin says, I can definitely understand where he's coming from. It's sort of like building a family, and when someone leaves, it's disappointing, but it's a hobby and needs to fit with your life. Yeah, exactly, mate. That was it. It's just it was one of those things, basically. To be honest, one of the reasons I fell out with the club a little bit, if you like, was because it was more. They seemed more interested in the running of the club and the kind of like in the committee type thing, than actually just playing games. Like it seemed like there was always a committee meeting. There was always the games are starting an hour later today because we're having a meeting, and that kind of stuff for me was like, I ain't got time for that kind of stuff. John saying my basement is full of junk that we don't use, which is why I game in the garage and so I can smoke. I don't smoke in the house. I like a cigar now and again, like kind of like a random as a rare occurrence. And I must admit, I'm kind of like looking at the garage now, thinking, well, it's not joined. It's joined to the house, but there's no door from the garage into the house, so it's kind of sealed off in that respect. And it's like, I wonder if I can have like a cheeky little cigar while I'm playing games now. That would be nice. It says basement bars were and still are a big thing in Canada. If you have enough room and money, it's where people spend their time all winter. It's becoming a bit of a thing in the UK because of all the lockdown stuff and that as well. People are starting to get like garden bars or home bars, and I think it's because pubs have been closed for 12 months. People have kind of changed the way they socialise really now. So yeah, you see a lot of it kind of online now. Mark's saying the only old houses built before 60 have basements here in my city. God, you think about that. The last house I lived in was built in like 1890. It just shows kind of like, I mean, obviously the history of America is a lot younger than the history of the UK, but there's a lot of old houses in the UK. Andrew says everywhere else in the US, large garage, tiny car. Texas, tiny garage, huge truck. Park on the street and use the garage for storage. Yeah, in the UK, garages tend not to be big enough to park your car in. They tend to be a glorified shed for a lot of people. For example, mine's going to be a studio, so. Connor says, I'm going to have to head off. Thanks for the stream again. See you Monday. Thank you very much, Connor. Nice to see you, fella. Yeah, let's crack on and do a bit more of this. I think I've caught up with the chat there. My throat's getting dry and I haven't got a drink anyway, so... right, that's still a bit wet. We'll leave that one to keep going. And then I think we've got a little bit more armour there to go out on the arm there, which I missed before. So we'll come in and pick that out. Right. What to do with the bow? I think what we might do is we might pick out this front bit in the blue and then go silver with the rest, I think. So just the bit around, I'm sure there's a fancy name for it, but the bit around the handle, or the bit around where the hand sits, we'll do that one with the blue, I think. And then the rest of it we'll go with silver on it and blend it that way. Well, he says blend. Give it a coat of Agrax, he says. I do like painting kind of small war bands and just tying them all together with colours. Marcus says, at my local game store, there are always people hanging out, painting and chatting. The owner even lets customers use his airbrush if they know how to use one. Do you know what it is? It's nice that you have gaming places like that. And those are the places you really do have to kind of look after them stores. Because the way Games Workshop stores are set up, like they don't want you doing that. They don't really want you playing in there. They want you to come in, buy something, and get out. Like, and that might sound really harsh, but they are a shop. That's how they work basically. And I think a lot of people kind of forget that really. But it's why GW stores got rid of a lot of their tables. They don't really want you in there playing. They want them tables to demo the game to somebody that's not played before, so then they can go and buy a starter set and then get out, kind of thing. Like, they're a retail store. And if anybody's ever worked in retail, you'll know that you almost measure the success of a store by basically kind of like how much money you're making per square foot. And GW stores are no different. John says, got to make yourself a man door there to fully avail yourself of that garage space in the winter. A space heater with a fan is enough. To be honest, mate, it's pretty well insulated. It's built on the side of our house. So where I live is like in a corner with there's like 3 houses in the little bit where we live, and we're in the corner house. So the garage is basically sort of one side of the garage is our living room, the other side of it, so it's all insulated and kind of blocked in that way. The other side of it is joined to next door's house, and above it is mine and my wife's bedroom. So it's pretty well kind of insulated around, really. The front is pretty well, because it's in the corner, it's pretty well protected from the elements and stuff. And one of the doors I've blocked in from the inside, so it's all kind of insulated that way. And then I've put a false wall up at the other side where the back doors go out into the garden as well, to make the area that it's going to be. So it's actually pretty good. Our heating boiler is in there, so it kind of generates a bit of heat anyway. I had considered putting like radiator and stuff in, but to be honest, it's not that cold. So I might feel differently about it in the winter and stuff, but it's actually not too bad. All right, we'll put some skin tones into this one. She's got kind of like sort of like strings around her legs, so I'm just trying to leave them so I can pick them out later on. She's still got some kind of like wolfy kind of claw feet by the looks of it, or she would have if it was on camera. So I'll just pick those out a little bit. But yeah, I'm fortunate to have the garage space. It's been a glorified sort of shed really for too long. Like I say, we've got like our washing machine and tumble dryer and central heating system is all in there and things. So it's just been somewhere to store bikes and things like that for too long. So now it's took some hard work to get it all cleaned out and get it to a point where it's actually usable space now. But yeah, it's getting there. And as soon as I've got something that I'm not not embarrassed to show you, I'll start sharing some pictures with everyone. But yeah, I can't wait to get folks around for games. That's the purpose of it. Start to actually play some games on the channel. I haven't decided whether I'm going to set it up with a PC and stuff in there and do live streaming games and things, or if I'm just going to set it up with cameras to be able to record and then edit the videos to upload. But we'll see over time. It might take a bit more investment to get to a state where I can live stream from there. Let me scroll up a little bit there. What was the scene you used to doing an art project in a group? What was the scene? Yeah, I have a 2-car garage and it's a work spare and massive storage area. Yeah, we're quite fortunate. Like I say, it's never really been empty since we moved into the house. It was kind of somewhere where we stored lots of things when we moved from our last house, and then you end up just kind of like leaving stuff there and you forget about them, and kind of it never got to a point where we could, like, we've never parked our car in the garage. And I did try a while ago to kind of use it as a bit of a studio space, but because we had so much stuff in there, like the use of it was really limited. This is the first time I've really kind of cleared it right out and got back to the point where I've got loads of space to actually do something properly this time. So I've kind of half-arsed it in the past and tried to do it on the cheap. This is the first time I've really tried to kind of invest anything into doing a proper job of it, really. So. Right. A little bit of skin tone there, which we'll tidy that up when we after we've had washes and stuff like that. John says, for years I tried to get my games group to hang out and build and paint together, but they couldn't do it without getting blood over, which kind of spoils it. Yeah, the painting side of things, I get you. I mean, it's alright having a beer, but it's another thing if you get to the point where people are passing out with a paintbrush in their hand. Gavin says, good old KPIs. Yes, you're right, mate. Stu says the GW in Perth was amazing before lockdown. Group painting hangout evenings at the end of the week and tournaments on a Sunday. Hope it gets back like that. I'm not sure how it is overseas, mate, but certainly in the UK they're very much focused. Like the managers of GW stores are tasked with selling starter kits, which is basically like, that means that you're spending your time getting new people through the door. Like if you're trying to run like a hobby group, you're basically not going to make much money from it. Unfortunately, that's exactly how they see that, and it might sound a bit harsh, but I mean, purely from a business point of view, they kind of have a point. That essentially it's if people are just coming in and hanging around and treating it like a kind of like a gaming group, it's basically monopolizing the space. So yeah, it sounds harsh, but I guess if it was your business, you might feel differently. That's where independent hobby shops are very, very. What am I using? That's not what I'm looking for. Independent hobby shops are very, very different. Let's try. Let's go with Troll Slayer Orange. We'll give her some nice gingery hair. Yeah, independent stores are very different. Martin, yeah, one of the oldest stores. The guy who runs it used to be super cool about that stuff, but he's gotten to be a grubby old man that just wants to pay it and leave. I saw a video a while ago, which was like a presentation thing from a guy who used to work for GW, and one of the things that they'd said, and I don't know how old this kind of training course was, so it might not be the current like sort of stuff, but what they were saying was like kind of like the folks that just come in and hang around and use your store as a hangout, and don't buy anything, like they're poison. Like, you'll spend all your time sort of answering their questions. They basically fill up your store. It puts people off coming in. Like, if people are a little bit nervous and they're not really sure what they want, like, they'll look at the store, see it like just full of people hanging about, and it'll put them off coming in, so you won't get new customers. It ends up looking like a drop-in centre kind of thing for gamers, and they don't spend enough money to keep the store open. So they're like a poison. You've got to get them out. And it was quite interesting hearing it, because as a hobbyist, as somebody who loves the hobby and wants to encourage people to kind of get together and talk about the hobby, like, honestly, like, a bit of me died inside when I kind of like heard it and I read it. But if it was my own business, if I had a shop and basically it was always just full of people hanging out, and like can you imagine having a pub and nobody ever bought a beer? They all just kind of come round and hung out and sat at the tables, and nobody could come in and order any food because there was never any tables spare because people were just coming and hanging around. I kind of see their point, but it's not a nice way to put it. But yeah, that's exactly basically how their stores were, all their store managers were basically told to do that. It's one of the reasons they started taking tables out. It's one of the reasons that they stopped doing any kind of fancy terrain type stuff. If you couldn't buy the terrain, then it like there was no scratch built stuff. They didn't want people coming in going, oh, that's amazing, like can I buy that? Oh no, you can't buy it. We built that ourselves using like 43 different kits. They didn't want any of that stuff. They just wanted people to come in, be able to buy stuff, and then take it home, go somewhere else and play it, kind of thing. Or to do demos to get like little Johnny understanding how to play, so that his mum and dad would then go and buy him the latest 2-player starter set, kind of thing. So yeah, it's a cruel. It seems cruel on the face of it, but it's a proper business. It's a sales model. It's a proper business model. Mark is saying, I've never been inside a really GW store. The nearest one for me for years was all the way in Dallas. I think the UK's got a lot more GW stores. I think, like, when I say GW, I mean like proper, like, owned by Games Workshop stores, not like independent stores who just happen to sell Games Workshop stuff. There's quite a few GW stores, and they're certainly the way a lot of people get into the hobby. Like, that they're a marketing tool. They're on like high streets. They're in shopping centres. They're in prominent places. They're not like on kind of like trading estates in the middle of nowhere type thing. They're in like prime real estate locations. So I can imagine the rents are high on them. No, they wonder they want to turn over stock. But yeah, I think the GW managers are really like they have really quite sort of strict sales targets. And to be honest, they're employed to be salespeople. Like, they're not employed to teach people how to paint, or to kind of like to just be nice to people and be the font of all knowledge for Warhammer 40k. They're employed to sell stuff, and that's always how GW have kind of seen those things. And if you had a hobby store, maybe you'd feel differently about it. Maybe you'd feel the same. If you felt, I'm going to own a hobby store, and I'm going to be really nice, and I'm going to chat to everybody, and people can just come and hang out, you might quickly find in a few months' time it ain't paying the bills. Ed saying, for any little game store has nowhere to paint really. All the small tables taken up by card gamers. That's because, mate, if you go in to paint, you might feel obliged to buy a £3 pot of paint, but them card gamers are spending hundreds on cards. That's exactly why they do that. John says, my garage door faces northwest, and sometimes that wind rattles the door like crazy, and it gets down to minus 20 below. Yeah, it's not too bad here, mate, for that kind of stuff. Kevin Mohammed says, I visit a GW store in Singapore and Japan. The staff are kind enough to let me paint while I wait for my flight. That's good, mate. John said, I had a portable hobby set I used to bring to various places. As long as I had water, decent light, and a flat surface, I could paint. I used to do that when I was travelling with work to hotels and stuff. I had like a little sort of travel and paint kit with me. Peter's done a bit of painting tonight. He says, only hope it looks somewhat as good in the light of day. I'm sure it will, mate. So, you know, let's catch up on some of this chat here for a bit. Stu says that was Perth, Scotland, not Perth, Oz. Yeah, John says we have a Perth, Ontario. It sounds like it's Perth everywhere. Tony Booth Leiden says, we're fingers crossed opening for gaming from May the 17th in our store. I think it's going to be a bit emotional for a lot of people. Yeah, May the 17th when you can start a meet indoors again, isn't it? It's a bit different for me because that mine is having people in my house. So that's where it's a bit of a different thing for mine, I think. John says we have a Warhammer store here in Burlington, but I try to stay away. No point in looking at stuff I can't buy. But there's also a fantastic independent store called Torchlight Games and Hobbies. Nice, mate. Bobby says early 2000s was when GW sent the order to remove the people who lingered. Yeah, I thought it wasn't too long ago, mate. But I completely understand why they do it. It kind of just flies in the face of like this is a hobby. Come and try our hobby, but just don't come and try it here, kind of thing. Tasty Brain Drain says, I'm really digging that Archer. It's starting to come together. I like kind of going bright against the blue. Let me just go like, so obviously I'm going to wash the hair down and stuff and kind of shade it in and stuff. But I just think it contrasts nice with the blue. Looks good. If I do say so myself. Andrew said before the Dark Ages. Barry says the local shop I go to has a fee for a table which he puts towards purchases. Keeps the hangers on from just hanging out. Truthfully, once he knows you, he never collects it anymore. My local gaming store does charge you to play at the table. So I think you pay for like I don't know if you pay by the hour or if you pay like for the session, like it's like an evening session or like a daytime session. But you do pay for table space, and I get that mind because most people are not buying stuff all the time. They come in to play games because most people don't have room at home to play games. So if the only money he makes is somebody's paid a $5 to rent the table for the night, and maybe he's bought a can of pop or something like that, he's not going to stay open on that kind of money. John says Torchlight's a fantastic store, offering in-store gaming and the use of airbrushes, purpose-built and vented playrooms, a classic set of games. I think I don't know what it's like over in the US, and maybe people support their local stores more. Over here in the UK, what tends to happen is people will use a store as somewhere to play, but unless that store is a big one and they have a lot of stock, they end up buying online because it's cheaper, because there's 20% discount or something like that. And unfortunately, what that means is that the stores in the UK tend to not be particularly very nice. They tend to not be very well furnished. They tend to be in kind of dirty old warehouse type places. And the ones that are not like that are few and far between. And I think it's almost false economy that the nicer ones, people support it because they want to see it doing well. And the ones that look like a tin shed tend to like people go, oh, like I used to go to a place where we played War Machine, funny enough, and it was basically there was a small store area which didn't have a huge amount of stock, and the back area was like kind of like it was like a massive big sort of like warehouse type thing with just tables in. But like the owners used to let their dog just like wander around when people were playing, and the dog would like piss on the floor and stuff, and like so nobody would dare put their bags on the floor. So everybody had bags up on tables and stuff. It just wasn't a nice place to play, and like it was kind of hard to support the players because they hardly ever had the stock in that you wanted. You waited ages for stuff to come into stock, and there was no discount. And the playing area didn't feel like the kind of place that you wanted to kind of like. It's kind of harsh because it was the only place to play, but like even just like little things like the dog and stuff like that, it just used to put me off. Lord Maiden says he's finishing Malifaux Crew. They're based and waiting for the glue to dry. Nice one. Blizzard's saying he's been in one GW store, drove 2 hours to go to a grand opening, wasn't impressed. Tiny, understocked, and rude staff. Silencer, hello Silencer, says yo, was Lost World Exodus already released? So the rules themselves are still finishing off development, but they've started to release the models, so you can get ahead of the curve. But the models can be used in Wild West Exodus as well. And when Lost World Exodus does release, the core rules are going to be based on Wild West Exodus core rules. So you can take a Wild West Exodus faction and a Lost World Exodus faction and play them together in a game. So there's going to be like crossover. Think of it like War Machine and Hordes, how it's two slightly different rules but come together and you can play it under the same rules. So yes, they're starting to kind of release them. There's about 3 or 4 faction boxes available now. But yeah, I think there's more planned, starting to come soon. Marcus says, yeah, knowing that GW stores are not for hanging out, I would guarantee it would fail here in El Paso. Every game store here also has Hangouts. Do you find, and maybe this is a good question, do you find in the US people are less likely to buy online and more likely to buy at their local gaming store? I think the other side of it is you also have laws, don't you, which stops things being as heavily discounted. So here in the UK, it's against the law to fix the price of something, which is why stores have 20% off, 25% off online and stuff like that, especially pre-order weekends and things. I think generally in the US, there's a limit to how much things can be discounted, and I wonder if that breeds a different mentality, as in more loyalty to local stores, because you can't get it cheaper online anyway. I do wonder what that works like. Yeah, Silence is just saying there. Yeah, knew some kits were compatible with Wild West Exodus. Yeah, all kits will be compatible with Wild West Exodus, mate. So yeah, and the rules will pretty much be the Wild West Exodus rules. There's some slight changes to how you build your war bands. So there's some slight changes to that, and there's some more slight not rule changes, but almost like, how can I put it? Basically, what gives flavour to the faction will make them feel different to the factions in Wild West Exodus, but they'll all be able to play together in the same game. So when the rules actually come out, it'll just really be one big game type thing, really, with all the different intricacies coming together. John says, he's talking to Tony there. John says, sounds like a crappy customer experience. Yeah, it's... And like John saying there as well, it's a great little independent store run by a couple of young guys. They are great to talk to, unlike some places that seem to not want to make money. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like my local store, the one that I'm saying local, it's not that close to me. It's just the closest one. They do charge people for the tables, but they don't have any online like thing. So if you want to pre-order stuff, you kind of have to send the guy a message on Facebook Messenger. Then he tells you that there's stock available for it. Then you have to kind of like PayPal the money, and then once he's got the PayPal, like it's not. So for things like Curse City, for example, it's not easy to pre-order stuff at 10 o'clock because he won't take any pre-orders, which I actually agree with. But then what happens is at 10 o'clock on that morning, everybody's just like sending messages, and then you're waiting for him to get back to you to say, yes, you've got one, can you send me the money? And in the meantime, what happens is everywhere else sells out. So if you don't get your copy, like you've kind of run out of options to get it elsewhere. So it's all just a bit messy. It's not even like he looks after the loyal people. And this is not a nice, like, I'm not saying that he's not a good store owner. He like, you know, he runs a good place kind of thing. But it's not like some people spend all their money with him, so he looks after them by putting one aside, because they're still not allowed to pre-order it until it goes up for pre-order at 10 o'clock. So he treats everybody the same way, which on the one hand is a really good thing, but on the other side of it is, for me, it's not close enough that I play there regularly, and because he doesn't sort of like I can't, like it doesn't have an easy system to pre-order stuff from. Yeah, Tony's saying, yeah, it works at his local friendly local gaming store. Can never understand those kind of not so friendly stores. We go out of the way to make people feel welcome and respected. It's good business sense. I think treating customers well is good business sense, but there is a fine line between sort of going out of your way to give the customer a good experience, but the customer doesn't replicate or reciprocate that by spending their money in the store kind of thing. Bliss is, I get 15% off pretty consistently at US stores, and I know you can get 20% off if you buy $200 or more. Here in the UK, 20% is pretty much the standard now. There's a lot of places that are trying to drop that down a little bit. But if you want something, if you want paints, if you want so even if you're buying one pot of paint, generally it's kind of 20% off. It's pretty much the standard. And I do wonder how much that's had an impact, because it's one thing. GW stuff's a bit different because GW won't let you sell it unless you've got a brick and mortar store. But you don't need a brick and mortar store to sell like other stuff. So there's a lot of places online which are just online kind of warehouses, without a lot of the overheads that a store has, and they can afford to have a bigger discount because they're not paying sort of like for a nice location and gaming tables and all that kind of stuff. Bruce is saying, here where I am in Texas, local shop loyalty is tied to customer service. The better service, the more loyal a customer base is. There's an element of customer service just been better in the US anyway, and I think it comes from the fact that generally like servers, bartenders, waitresses, kind of busboys, that type of stuff work for tips, so they give good customer service and people tip them, where tipping is a very different thing in the UK. Like rarely do people get tipped. You might tip a taxi driver or something like that, but even these days, because you pay for so much, like on an app, like if I book a taxi, like it just gets charged to my card kind of thing. I don't even have to pay the taxi driver cash anymore. Like even like things like takeaway deliveries now, like I don't have any cash in the house, so if I order a takeaway, in the past I used to have like 20 quid or something, and the takeaway might have come to say like £16-17, and you'd say just keep the change, there's a tip. These days you order it on the app, and that's it. Like you don't have any change in the house because I don't have cash lying around to kind of tip people. Tipping's a bit of a different thing now these days. Barry's saying usually local stores don't discount that heavily. They're more loyalty programs, discount cards, buy X and you get a punch, fill the card and you get $20 off. I understand that, and I think that's great. I think the reason it doesn't really work here is because it's just 20% off is just like, it's so easy to get that stuff online. There are big stores like Element Games, like Goblin Gaming, like Firestone Games, like Wayland Games, who carry big stocks of the big games and generally give 20% off. So I can see why smaller stores struggle. I would love to open a really good store. There's nothing really up in the northeast that would like to kind of like that would be a rival, if you like, from that respect of having a really good kind of high customer experience players. But there's just not enough money in the product. You'd have to make money on selling food and drink and making the place a really good experience to come to and running big events. But then what you do is you can't start small and work your way up to a bigger shop. You have to just invest a big chunk of money in a big shop from the off and buy loads of stock and really kind of kit it out nice. So if you had a big, like if you've got the money to invest, I think you could make it work. But it's not something you can start small and build up to. Good evening, John. How you doing, mate? Marcus is saying, so I think that since most stores are also for D&D, comic books and other nerdy things, they kind of started as nerd sanctuaries. I think there is that as well. A lot of gaming stores over here don't always cater to a wider range of stuff. They don't even sell board games. They don't sell comic books. They don't sell video games. Like there are some gaming stores here that are literally just selling kind of tabletop gaming stuff. Some of them like don't even sell like Magic the Gathering cards and things like that. Marcus says, you just finished building these crypt haunters and horrors. Nice one, mate. Right, let's see how this is drying out, and we'll I think that's alright. We can go back to this one now. Let's go. So we can go back and start so you can see that kind of wash is just taking the shine off a little bit, just ran into recesses, dulled it down a little bit. We're going to go back now with the Sotek green, and let's start to go from there. John says, life's good, I've got a real game tomorrow, actual dice. Nice one, mate. Gavin says, Firestorm Games in Cardiff started as a small shop and have 3 stores spread across Wales and England. Lots of tournaments held there these days. Yeah, and I think you used to be able to do that, mate, because pre-internet days, it wasn't that easy to just kind of to go and kind of compare prices and kind of shop around for the best price. These days, like it's just so easy to go and find cheaper prices online, and I think that if you started a gaming store now, it would be so difficult. You're really up against it because all of your competitors already have already have loyal kind of customers. They're already doing 20% discount. So why would anybody change? Like why would anybody come to you? Because you can't afford to make the discount any bigger. Because once you start down that road, you're pretty screwed, to be fair. Because then all people do is they just keep coming to you because you're cheap. And the problem is when you're cheap, you have to cut corners elsewhere. And unfortunately, where you end up cutting corners is things like the store looking nice and having the heating on, furnishing the store with nice nice stuff like nice gaming tables, nice terrain, that kind of stuff. You have to start cutting corners elsewhere. And so you end up with what we've got in the UK, with basically a lot of like old warehouse looking sheds that are not particularly very warm, not very inviting. And not great places. There are exceptions. There's some nice places, but there's some absolute holes as well, to be fair. I've played in some horrible places. I mean, I'll be honest, Element Games in Manchester, in Stockport, is one of the bigger ones in the UK now, but it's only in the last few years that they've really kind of tidied that place up. I remember going there and it was awful. They were famous for their toilets never working and it being freezing cold in there and like crap falling from the ceiling and stuff like that. They spent a lot of money, and I actually think some Element Games took it over because somebody else used to run the gaming centre. It wasn't run by Element Games at that point in time, and I think they actually kind of like, they knew they were getting a bit of a bad name because of the state of the place, even though they had nothing to do with it. They were just sort of part of it. They were in the same building, if you like. But yeah, the Northwest Gaming Centre, as it used to be called before it was took over by Element Games, was notorious for the condition it was in. I know Wayland Games have a place as well down south, but I've never been down there. I've got no idea what it's like. So all I'm doing is I'm just kind of coming in and just like, I'm not really like repainting the whole thing. I'm kind of just dipping in and just picking out little bits of areas, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a lighter blue again and highlight it up further. So all I'm really doing, I'm trying to leave some of the darker areas around. I'm trying to brighten up some of the bits and just gradually just layer it up really. John says, have you done any of the gunfighter models? The gunfighter model? I don't think I know. Do you mean the gunfight at Red Oak, mate? Is that what you mean? I think if that's what you mean, yes, I have. They're over there on the shelf. Let me know if you mean the gunfight at Red Oak, because if you do, I can show you the ones I've done. If you mean a game called Gunfighter, I've never actually heard of it, mate. Oh, let me scroll back a little bit. Barry says, even though the US is bigger, hobbies are really uncommon. Patronizing your local store is really important, because if it closes, there may not be another store around. Tiberius says, no triad. Some people just want to watch the world burn. I will be using the triad on this, mate. Only on the blue I'll be using the triad. So I'll show you what I'll use. So what I use for my triad is this, mate. So I have Sortek green, and then I have Temple Guard blue, and then I have Baroth blue. So that's what I use to highlight it, mate. So I do have a triad for the blue. The rest of the stuff I don't bother with, mate. I just wash it and highlight it basically. But it's very rare do I have a kind of a proven triad that I use for reds, which kind of highlights up to orange. But generally I don't. I'm generally not that fussed about what I'm painting, to be honest. I like to go the extra mile sometimes. I mean that sounds terrible, but essentially what I've found over time is I can spend hours and hours on models and really not be any happier with them by the end. So I kind of I found what works for me now. So we're just lightening some of these bits up. Right. So then I'll come in with the Temple Guard Blue. Just see what we've got here. John says the post-apocalyptic vibe. Oh, let me take the brush out. Oh, the post-apocalyptic vibe of some gaming centres seems appropriate for some games. If it was intentional, mate, I would agree with you. If they intentionally tried to make them look like kind of desolate, kind of barren wastelands, but they're not. They're just what they tend to do is, because you need a lot of space for a decent gaming store. They tend to buy out of town, like old factory warehouses which are a bit run down and nobody else wants, with holes in the roof and all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, they end up looking a bit ropey. So yeah, if it was intentionally decorated that way, like the one that Mini Wargaming have got, their gaming centre type place where they've got, like, I would love to have a place like that with like proper themed rooms and like a themed hall and places to stay and like a bar and somewhere to eat and things. Like, I would love something like that. But the investment needed is just phenomenal for something like that. And you're taking a big risk, because if people come and they just come and hang out and they don't spend any money, which is what we were talking about before, it's really hard to kind of to justify it. Like I said, I've looked to open a gaming space before in the past, and what I found was that you have to have an online presence, you have to offer discount, which then slashes your kind of the margins that you're making. So it becomes about volume. And unfortunately, when you're just about volume, the only like your point of difference starts to kind of cease. Like, the only point of difference you've got is to give a really good customer experience. But because the vast majority of your customers are not coming in face to face, all you can really do is offer good stock levels, offer fast shipping times, but everybody else is doing that as well. So that's like there's just not, the market's not big enough. It's not like when you think there's a coffee shop on every corner, because people will buy coffee from everywhere. Like, there's just not the market for it when it comes to like tabletop gaming, sadly. Because I would love to use the opportunity I've got, like the fact that this is my job now, and actually like I get to kind of have my finger on the pulse a little bit about what's happening in the communities and what are people like, and I've visited different places, so I know what works and what doesn't work. Like, I would love to be able to put that experience and knowledge to good use, and maybe like open somewhere or help someone open somewhere. But yeah, it's just the hobby itself is just not, it's not big enough to sustain quality places, basically. What does work is when you do things like a board game cafe, which is essentially a cafe, really. Like, there's a really good board game cafe, and I forget where it is now, but they have like they have pizzas, they have cocktail nights, they have like all sorts of like themed nights to get people in there, and it ends up being like a night out. Instead of going to the bar, like, you go to the gaming cafe for the night and you have drinks there, and like you play games with friends, kind of thing, and it becomes a much more social experience. Tony's saying, just seen that the Kindle edition of Curse City is released on Saturday. Yeah, I saw that, mate, as well. Silencer says, I pretty much know about Wayland and Element Games. Some shops here in Poland, where I live, use them as possible distributors, though no longer sure given Brexit. One of the things that stopped me recently was a little while ago, was GW stopped. They stopped UK stores from shipping overseas to like America and to Australia and stuff. I think because of like European Union, they were okay doing it into Europe and stuff. However, yeah, I think you're right, mate, with the whole Brexit and the taxes and stuff like that now. I think those days are probably gone. So as you can see, I'm not being really kind of smooth or fancy with my highlights. I'm literally just picking out some areas with this lighter blue, and it's more of a cartoony kind of overemphasized look. Really, it's not meant to be realistic. It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be like finely blended or anything like that. It's just meant to give a spot of colour. And what it does is, as you can see, if I zoom out a little bit, it just makes it pop on the table a little bit. It doesn't have to look realistic. Let me just move that light. So there we go. It just makes it stand out on the tabletop a little bit. It's not perfect. It's not perfectly blended, but that kind of just that real pop of blue just makes it stand out a little bit. And it's just something I've kind of learned to do over the years, really. Like, it's not, like I say, it's not, I wouldn't kind of be teaching people, if you like, how to paint like this. It's not using any kind of sort of fancy skills. You're not learning like edge highlighting or blending or anything like that. It's just about, the only thing I would take away from this, I would kind of recommend that you take away from it, is that sometimes things don't have to be perfect. Sometimes it's just about kind of getting a colour to stand out a little bit, because at 2 foot on a tabletop, miniatures look very different to when you get a really close-up picture and pop it on Facebook for everybody to judge. So sometimes just looking good at 2 foot away. It's one of the reasons why you tend to see me posting pictures of group shots, because actually then you're not just looking at one individual thing, if you like. You're looking at the effect of the whole crew together, if you like, or the whole warband together. How we're doing for time? 11 o'clock. Wow. Right, I think what we'll do is I'll finish this blue, and then we'll call it a night. Because as I said at 8:30 when I started painting, I am knackered. All right, a little bit inside wristbands there, and I think, my friends, we'll call him pretty much done for the night. Just get my brushes out the way there. Put a lid on my wet palette, and then we'll have a bit of a wrap up. There it is. So there's the other one that we've been painting tonight. For those that come in a bit later, she's starting to come together as well. But you can see where we're going to go to when we wash that one down with the agrax and then start to bring it back up with the blue again. It just gives, move this lighter out, there we go. It just gives it a little bit of pop to it, really. So, and obviously we're gonna, on this guy as well, around his face, if we can zoom in, I'll probably use something like an Ulthuan grey or something like that, and pick out the hair around his face. And what I'll probably do is these little gems on the side here, I'll probably pick out with red, just to give it a bit of a spot focal point. Because I think if I showed you the dwarf thing that I've done using exactly the same colours. Let me just show you the kind of like on the gun there on the front, those little bits of red just really work well against that blue. You can see that's another reason why as well why I went with the gingery hair as well on the archer, because it really sort of, that kind of orangey teal, the orangey colour with the tealy blue, it's just a really nice combination together. So that's why I'll be putting a little spot of red on them as well, just as a nice kind of like pop focal colour. So let's quickly catch up with the last of the chat here. Gavin Watkins, thank you very much, mate. It's just popped up on my phone that he's just pledged on Patreon. Oh, there it is. I thought it hadn't worked, mate. Thank you very much, Gavin Watkins. Really do appreciate that. Hopefully, we'll see you in the Patreon chat as well, my friend. Let's have a quick read through some of this chat. We'll catch up and stuff. Marcus is saying, I know at least that store I go to will only offers discount to regular customers because at first he would sell a 3-tier membership that people started abusing, so the owner changed the rules. Yeah, I've seen things like that where people kind of like start buying stuff for their friends because they've got a bigger discount and stuff like that. Blizzard says, the past time I played Friday Night Magic about 7 years ago, the place I went to smelled like urine. There's a place in Newcastle that's a little bit like that as well. That is kind of is pretty much a card gaming place, but stinks a bit. Busey says, stuff falling from the ceiling onto gaming tables can't be good. I'm just picturing it now. Honestly, mate, Element Games, I keep saying Element Games, it's not fair to Element Games. They didn't run it when it was the Northwest Gaming Centre. Was an absolute shithole, if I'm honest. And it improved over years because like anything, they put all their money into getting the place open. And then the idea will have been, like, over time, as we build it up, we'll invest a bit more money here and we'll make it nice. But the problem is it never makes enough money to get the money to make it nice. These are the kind of places you need to invest in them from day one. And what happened is, over time, eventually, Element Games took it over. Like they've put carpets down, they fixed the toilets, they fixed the holes in the ceiling, they blocked up some of the windows that were like broken and kind of like cold coming in. They put heating in there. All these kind of things that you have to do, really, but unfortunately weren't there originally. John actually said, I like guns, what can I say? Show me the gunfighters. I did say I would show that way, didn't I? Give me 2 seconds. Here we go. I've got armfuls of models here now. Let me pop them down and I'll show you there. So, Wild West Exodus, of which Lost World Exodus is part of, I used to have a 2-player starter set called Gunfight at Red Oak. So, this is what I've painted up for Gunfight at Red Oak. So, we have this, I think they call it Enforcers, basically. Guys on the iron horses there. So there's that. We've got these kind of gun dogs and stuff. Let me zoom out a little bit. Got the gun dogs here as well. We have, I forget which characters they are. We've got, I think I don't know if that's Wyatt Earp, I think, or maybe Doc Holliday or something like that. And then we have this dude as well, which is, that one will zoom out of that one rather than the background. Let me just, there we go. Him as well, and then there's also the little gun dog as well. So that was one half of the starter set. Move them over to one side, and then we've got the other half of the starter set. So we had this guy here. We've got another one of those kind of gun dog things as well. We have these characters. Just kind of seeing with these like sort of gas mask thing on there. Maybe if I pull this light over there, yeah. See it a little bit better. And these were very much kind of base coated, brushed, washed and dry brushed as well. So that was the. Let me just move them across a bit. So that was the other side of the starter box. So yeah, I enjoyed painting them, and I'm looking forward to getting some games of Wild West Exodus when the world went to shit. Right, let me catch up here. Lord Ben says, sorry, better go to bed now. Need to be up at like 7 hours. Night, mate. Thank you very much. Tiberius says, well done. I'll let you off. Cheers, man. John saying, desolate, barren wasteland. Sounds like my country in the winter. Mark says, I love one thing about my local stores. They have a microwave and a coffee maker in the store. Gal says, can offshore accounts ship into the UK? Have stores in Thailand and New Zealand in my bookmarks. I will sometimes use to look for rare GW stuff. They can ship into the UK, mate. But it's just, I mean, there's so much kind of like tax and customs and stuff now. It just becomes very expensive, and there's always a chance you'll get hit with a big fee as well these days. The whole Brexit thing's really screwed that kind of stuff up. Gav Watkins is saying, looking good, Andy. Thanks for the company. Thank you for joining us, mate, and thank you for joining the Patreon as well. Blizzard says I got a good solid start on the Malifaux challenge. Nice one. I will get something a bit more formalised, mate. But yeah, but that's what we'll be doing. Martin says, first time, and now too, really, I put a picture of my painted minis on the computer, saw them 3 times the size and nearly died of embarrassment. It's one of the reasons I very rarely, like I said before, mate, I very rarely take an individual picture of one model. Like as I've just shown these things, so I know for a fact, right, and this is not me being kind of big-headed, there will be people looking at them going, oh, they're really nice, you did a really good job of them, Andy, right? But if I show you them close up, so if I come into this one and get this slight light over, like, there is nothing fancy about that. The trousers are contrast paint. The wheels are contrast paint. The red is contrast paint with a bit of... I might have even put a wash... I think I might have started with red contrast paint and then washed it over and then dry brushed it with a lighter red. The bike is all contrast paint, I think. It's like a contrast... I might have painted... I think it's probably something like Space Wolf Grey or Griff Charger Grey. And then with a bit of a light dry brush of silver on it. And again, the base is all just dry brush. Like, when you look up close, I haven't done any fancy details. It's base colours and washes. But like that's exactly the same. There's nothing to it. It's been painted grey, dry brush silver. The red bits have been painted and then a bit of a dry brush over the top of them. But so there's nothing fancy about them. But then when you put them together as a group, you instantly go, oh, they're all right. They're not bad. And it's about putting them together because in reality, you don't, like, they're that big, they're not that big kind of thing. Like, and that's something to take into account, really. Blizzard saying they look great so far, Andy. Thank you very much. I'm saying good night as well. Skip forward here. VG said, anyone else get the shit with contrast paint dry and glossy and then thinking they've missed spots because the light's creating? Yes, mate. VG, I heard there was a place down in Melbourne that had owners with a dog that pissed and shit everywhere. Some people are just savages. Yeah, like I say, mate, there was a place up in the northeast as well that was exactly like that. It was awful. There was, like, I remember going for the first time and somebody saying to me, don't put your bag on the floor. Don't put your bag on the floor. Put your bag on the table. And it's like, there's not much space. It's taking up some of the... Just put it... Believe me, don't put your bag on the floor, or don't leave your bag in the car. Like, don't bring it in. It's like, Jesus. Warwick saying, this is Wild West Exodus stuff. It is, mate. That is Wild West Exodus stuff. Silencer says, that looks really nice. Thank you very much, mate. Tasty Brain Drain saying, yeah, just don't get it. I've known a few gaming stores where the owner would have their dogs roaming through the store. Yeah, exactly, mate. Wes Huffer says they look fantastic. Thank you very much, Wes. Bruce saying thanks for the stream. Take care. Thank you very much, mate. John saying I have to make sure I have frozen pizza handy for the next live stream so I can hobby along. Yes, mate. Get yourself a sandwich or something. Silence says that's true what you say about group photos. We usually obsess about perfection on a single mini and then we still don't paint for shit, and then go back and have a look at them and kind of revisit it, because those were done really, really quick. I think I might have even done these on the live stream. But yeah, think about the completed unit. Don't agonize over individual minis unless you are painting one mini for a competition or something like that. VG says, yeah, when taking photos of your minis, try never to blow them up bigger than life size. It will end in tears. Yeah, honestly, one tip I would give you, if you've only painted one mini and you want to take a shot of it, make like a little diorama type thing up. Use a little bit of terrain, put it on a gaming mat and put a little bit of terrain in the background, just to kind of give it some context. Because otherwise what you'll do is you'll take a picture and you either end up, let me just kind of show you as an example kind of what I mean, right? So you either end up, if I take a picture of that, so what people will do is they will either take a picture like that with a miniature kind of like with loads of stuff around it's just stuck in the middle, or they'll suddenly start zooming in and they'll make it huge and making it stand out, and then all of a sudden you start nitpicking and going, oh well, I can see brush strokes on that, or I can see where you've kind of gone over the edge a little bit. In reality, like it's more like that size, but then that picture isn't particularly nice, or you end up with, let me just kind of show you what I mean about taking pictures. Like that's not a very. Oh, you can't see it at the minute. Let me just. Like that's not a particularly very nice picture to kind of show people, to see like my miniature in the middle of nothing. But if you start to put little bits of like sort of terrain around the side of it, even if it's like little crates or barrels or something to give it a context in size type thing, or just to kind of dress it a little bit, it makes a world of difference. John saying there's been a few times last year when I look at a finished model and think it's lousy, but when I see it in natural sunlight, I was gobsmacked. Light is a huge thing, mate. Yeah, definitely. Vija says, yeah, you definitely did paint those gunfighter guys on a stream, or at least the doggo. Yeah, I thought I did, mate. It might have been one of the first live streams I did, actually. One of the first sort of painting streams I did, rather, during lockdown last year. Anyway, let's call it a night there. I'm running out of energy now. It's late in the day. So thank you, every single one of you who's been in tonight. A special thank you to Gavin Watkins for joining the Patreon tonight. Thank you to all my other Patreons who come and hang out every week as well. Thanks to everybody who's just come and had a chat, to all the new people that's joined the chat tonight as well. Nice to see some new faces in here tonight. Hopefully we'll see you again next week. I've got a whole pile of work to carry on getting the studio stuff ready. Like I say, hopefully I get it to a state where I'm not embarrassed to take some pictures and I can show you what I'm up to. So hopefully I'll get that done over the next few days. But yeah, take care, folks. Enjoy your weekend. I'll chat to you in the Discord and Patreon and stuff. I'll speak to some of you in Facebook. And I'll see you on Monday night's live stream. So take care, folks. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month. And there is lots of different tiers and bonuses, which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.